Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 213. It's got Nate and I are alone at the table here. I'm Steve Crane.
You make that sound like it's so bad.
I mean, it's not bad.
Like no one wanted to be with us.
I mean, say what you will about it. I'm just stating facts here. Thank you for tuning in. I do want to thank our sponsors, first and foremost, you guys out there, patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. That's the way you guys can do a monthly contribution, and we appreciate everyone that's involved in that. And if you're a new Patreon member, there are 3 different tiers, and you will get some swag from that based on when you do sign up and how you sign up. And also, if you want to donate or contribute a bottle, you can do Venmo at Bourbon and BS. That's a commercial account, so that helps out as well. You can just tell us what you want us to get. Hopefully it's something readily available, or if it's not, and you want us to spend it a different way, just let us know. So we appreciate that. Also, thank you to Tinder Box at Easton, who just had the big event. I'm sure we're going to talk about that a bit in part 2. But Smoking 10 event 9 went off on Saturday, and we had about 250 people in the tent and had a great time, all good feedback. So check them out in Columbus, Ohio. We're going to be smoking tonight a Rocky Patel Disciple that was sponsored by Tinder Box today. That's going to be from Rocky Patel. That was a cigar that was given out to the VIPs. So if you guys are out there and you're listening and you were at the 10 event and you have the Rocky Patel Disciple, light it up with us and let us know what you think on the feed. Altadis USA, we've got the St. Louis Ray Carenas, which was actually a highly ranked cigar this last year, which is why we handed that out not only to the VIPs, but also to the general admission. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. A little bit milder than a lot of the cigars out there at the 10 event, but it was, I believe, number 17 in Cigar Aficionado's top 25 this last year. So a lot of praise there. BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. We got the gold by Plasencia and the silver by Espinosa. And those are all Nicaraguan blends, medium on the gold and medium full on the silver. Check those out. Check out at Tinder Box at Easton, or also you can contact us at the podcast and we'll point you in the right direction if you need them mailed to you. Last but not least is buyjack.com/bourbon and BS. Not a sponsor necessarily, but that's where you can get the red shirt that Nate's got on the Pour One More, Light Up Another. We'll figure this out together. And I've got the Light It Up When the World Hands You Some BS, Light It Up. Bunch of other cool stuff. New hoodies. Black hoodie, blue hoodie, camo hoodie with the barrel logo. We've got ladies V-neck tees on there as well. So working on getting a couple more designs or at least color combos up there on the 3/4 sleeves. So check that out as well. Yeah, that's it.
Is the charity green shirt coming down?
It will be coming down. I've been trying to get a hold of John over there, and he texted me back and said he's on vacation this week. So he's going to work on it on his way back in at the end of the week. So get those numbers and everything else. So, but yeah, for right now, you can still get the charity green shirt like Nate has on, except in Kelly Green for St. Baldrick's Foundation donation as well. So $10 of that goes towards that.
That was the one I was rocking during the 10 event.
As was I, but I had a hoodie on the whole time.
You were outside. I was in the shop.
Outside. That's right. That's right. So
I had the awesome responsibility of manning the store.
It is a good responsibility.
Yeah.
Busy. I'm actually drinking out of the new BS glass.
Yes.
Probably can't see that on
showing it off.
That's right. So this was handed out to the VIPs as well in the Smoking 10 event, and it was we got it done through a contact, and I'll share that on the community page. But yeah, we did those for everyone in the VIP, and now we have a handful left at the Tinder Box. So if you guys want that in your local, stop by Tinder Box. It's $25 for one of them and 2 for $40. Get a set.
Nice.
All right, what are we drinking tonight? We got Hirsch the Horizon.
Yes.
And this was donated by Avi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Who has not been on the podcast, but he's been listening. He's supported the podcast for some time. And he was so kind when he came to the garage, not empty-handed. He brought a bottle with him. So this is what we're drinking tonight. So what do you know about this? I know you did some brief research on this.
So originally, it was a gentleman by the name of Adolf H. Hirsch, who basically paid to have some whiskey made back in 1974. And then the company went the distillery went bankrupt. Currently, that distillery, I believe, is owned and operated now by Michter's.
Okay.
And so in the in the 2000s, the company kind of bounced around different ownership. At one point, it was actually owned by Sazerac. So company that owns Buffalo Trace and all that wonderful stuff.
So they own the distillery, or just like this
the brand,
naming rights,
the name brand.
Okay.
Because at one point they actually released a 16-year Hirsch that was like the original release stuff, and that was actually bottled in a decanter, and it was selling for like $1,500 a bottle. And then in, I believe it's 2020, a California company, I believe it's Holting and Company.
Okay.
They purchased the rights to the brand name, and it's now just called Hirsch. So originally it was A.H. Hirsch. Now it's just Hirsch. They have the Horizon that we're drinking right now, and then they have a single barrel. The Horizon is a blend of 2 different mash bills coming out of MGP.
Okay, so this is just sourced from MGP. 2 different mash bills, though.
Yeah, so and they actually give you the information on the back of the bottle. So 94% of the bottle is a 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% barley mash bill that's been aged for 4 years and 10 months.
Okay.
The other 6% is a 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% malted barley mash bill that's been aged for 7 years and 5 months.
That's super specific. I mean, as it should be, but interesting.
Yeah, when I was looking at it, I was like, I mean, 94%, like, okay, so most of what you're getting is going to be from that, just under 5-year aged 75% corn mash bill.
Yeah.
Just a little bit is coming from that 7-year product. So it's like if it was me, I would want to balance those out a little bit better to try and get more flavor from that older whiskey, which has the lesser corn and higher rye content in the mash bill. Like I personally, I would have liked to have gone with that. Just kind of balance it out.
Okay.
Because, obviously being under 5 year, that's going to be, more of a younger, what we would consider a younger whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so they're one of those that I know Ray's probably not going to like because it's a whiskey, but they don't own a distillery.
Ray's not going to like it.
They're not making their own juice. They're basically just buying barrels from MGP and blending them together, putting their name on a bottle. But I mean, nowhere on the bottle does it say, Hirsch Distillery or distilled in, someplace that it's not. So I mean, they tell you on the side label it's distilled in Lawrenceburg and it's bottled in Bardstown.
Okay.
So, but I mean,
you seem very excited about this.
I was excited because it's something I hadn't had. It is available in the state of Ohio. It's coming in at $40, and if you look at the label, the logo that they use in the logo, so it kind of looks like a nautical compass.
Yeah,
and so like it makes up the A, the H, and then the Hirsch underneath it. So they still incorporate.
Good marketing.
They still incorporate the initials in the logo.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean. And I'd seen it a few times. I'd never ventured to try it, but it's a $40 bottle in the state of Ohio. So,
which is pretty standard at this point.
Yeah, and it's coming in at 92 proof.
Yeah, 92.
92. So not quite as strong as some of the single barrels that we've had lately.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that have all run between like 113 and 127.
Take a little bit of a breather here. All right. Yeah, I mean, this is very transparent as far as the mash bills. You're right. I mean, I was looking for a story. Now, if you do notice, I don't know if you looked at this closely. The story is
on the back. Yeah,
there you go. So on the back of the bottle itself, there is a sticker that same color scheme. It's like a teal or whatever, like an aqua, right?
Yeah.
And it just says the mash bills, gives the ratios, gives the mash bills, age, all that stuff. But then you have to kind of look through the whiskey here or wait until it's empty to actually read the story.
Either read it when it's full or read it when it's empty.
Or read it after you're tipsy and keep moving the bottle and just see if you can do it. You'll feel like you are at sea.
That would be like a sobriety test right there.
Disaster.
If you can read this through the whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, it starts within 1974. Is that you have that story?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I'm not going to try to read this.
Oh.
Oh.
You want me to?
You can try.
Yeah, I should have read it when it was.
See, that's what I'm saying.
No, I did find. So, it was eventually known as the Michter's Distillery near Schaeferstown, Pennsylvania. Adolf Hirsch commissioned the whiskey in a single 400-barrel batch. Standard bourbon recipe used at the distillery by then master distiller Dick Stoll, who learned all of his trade from Everett Beam.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's
some lineage there.
Yeah, so there's a tie
with
into
the story, but
to the Beam family there.
Yeah.
But I think on their website basically includes the story that's on the back of the bottle as well.
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, on their website, if you even look at their website, like they have 2 products and that's it, single barrel, and then this small batch.
I wonder if Avi tunes in. I wonder if there's a reason. I didn't ask him why he picked this, in particular.
Yeah. Had Avi had this before?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what's on the back of the bottle? In 1974, when A.H. Hirsch first imagined his now legendary bourbon, he set the gold standard for thoughtful American whiskey. Today, Hirsch continues to pursue whiskey as an explorer might consider uncharted territory. We believe the world is full of possibility. There's always room for discovery, and craft is best balanced with experimentation. With obsessively discerning selections, Hirsch continues to blaze trails for the adventurous.
Ooh.
And Avi said, yes, he has had it before.
Oh, he's on. I was just texting him.
Yeah.
Here I am sharing it. I don't even have the feed up. Perfect. All right. So he's had it. Avi, you are listening. I appreciate that. What were your thoughts on it? If you can type in the comments there, tell us what you think of it. Nate, what do you think of this? I'm still smoking the Rocky Patel Disciple, but we did take a sip or two of this.
So he's got a friend who sent him a case.
Is it because you like it though, or is it because he was just getting rid of it and he was like, here's something I don't want?
So for me, on the nose, it definitely came across like a young, corn heavy whiskey. Like it had that sharpness, kind of like acetone, but not like nail polish, not quite that strong. But someone who spent many years in labs, that note sticks out to me when I catch it.
Nail polish labs?
No, science labs, doing science experiments.
And nail polish.
No,
there's got to be. There's got to be something like chemical stuff going on there.
Well, yeah, in nail polish, it's acetone.
Okay,
and that's what we use to clean out sinks in science labs. So
it's a good note for a drink.
Well, it's on the nose. I didn't say it tasted like it. But no, like that is something that sticks out to me because of all my years in the science lab. Like when I smell it, like I know exactly what that is. Just like you could walk into a room and someone, like, even this happened Friday at the cigar shop. You had like 25 guys all smoking cigars in the cigar shop. And then one of the servers next door came over and lit a cigarette. Everyone, all we could smell was the cigarette.
Right.
Until that person left. And we're like, 25 dudes smoking cigars, and all we smell now is that damn cigarette.
Yeah, it stands out.
Same thing with it. It's like that note on the nose, it just stands out to me. And then on the palate, I just get a lot of like new oak. Kind of like when we had that one that was done in or finished with the Oregon white oak staves, or that Makers you and I had at the shop, which had the 10 French oak staves in it. This kind of tastes like that new oak sharpness just kicked up a notch.
Definitely sharp.
Yeah, like I get a lot of new oak. I don't get much of the char. I don't get a whole lot of vanilla or caramel like you would expect to get from a lot of bourbons that are traditional flavor notes. I just get a lot of that sharp oak.
When you say sharp oak as opposed to the char, you're tasting, what you consider oak, or are you tasting less of the wood? Because I'm getting more like the corn. I'm getting more of what I consider like the grains. I'm not getting the vanilla. I'm not getting the
yeah.
oak. I'm not getting oak necessarily. You're saying fresh oak. I'm saying I'm not getting as much oak. I'm getting that, like, there's not a whole lot coming out of the barrel. Like, this is, could have been done in a glass, in a sense where you're not getting any of the surrounding stuff. It's very clean as far as the mash bill, like the grains, the corn, the 5% where it's a heavier rye mash bill. I mean, it's 21% and 36%. I mean, it's not like the lightest that we've had, as far as the rye content, but it's a lighter one.
It is.
And I'm not getting, and you're saying, that's what I'm asking. Like, what do you mean like fresh oak versus char? You're just not getting, what characteristics are you saying when you say fresh oak? I say less of the oak side of it.
Well, so like typically if you did a toasted oak, you would get some more of the vanilla characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
A charred oak, you'd get more of the caramel characteristics. This kind of has that tannin structure, like it was aged in uncharred or untoasted oak. Like they just put it in like a wine oak type of barrel.
Okay,
that's what I mean when I sit there and say I just taste a lot of oak. That's what I mean. Like it was in an uncharred barrel. Even though I know, in order for it to be a bourbon, it has to be in a charred new oak barrel. Charred oak barrel. Like I don't get a whole lot of those characteristics.
It could be a virgin oak barrel. Does it have to be charred?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now for like for like a finishing, they can do they can do that toasted oak,
sure.
or they can finish it in some other type of cask, but it's got to be a new American white oak charred barrel.
Yeah.
But those distilleries that are doing that can use different levels of char. Yeah. They don't necessarily have to do as long of a char as what we saw when you and I went to Old Forester.
Sure.
They could sit there and just have it in the fire, for 5 seconds if they wanted to.
Yeah. So Avi says, I'm not going to put it up on the screen, but basically his buddy in New York had hooked him up with, as far as I'm sure he bought them, but hooked him up with several harder to find ones. Some of your basic bottles that are harder to find, like, your Buffalo Trace products.
Okay.
Right. And so he moved this case as well. So, and he says, just being nice. I don't think he's saying that. It's not that he doesn't like it, but I mean, that was part of the deal, like I'll what else should I try type thing. You're being nice. I'll support your business. But he did say that it's decent and sweet. And that's what I put up on the screen moments ago.
I get a little bit of sweetness on the finish.
It's the corn sweetness. For me, I mean, that's that corn sweetness.
That high corn.
Yeah.
Because 94% of this is a 75% corn mash bill.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a whole lot of age on it. So we've had some of those whiskeys before that were younger and had, 70 to 80% corn mash bills before. And that flavor really sticks out.
It does. And so that's what I was trying to narrow down what you're saying by, fresh oak, because for me, to your point, it doesn't have the normal caramel or vanilla as much as it does to me, the sweetness, and not like a weeded sweetness, you know what I mean? But it does have, it's more of like the corn heavy, and not the most that we've had on the show before, but it definitely, that is the predominant note, is like more that kind of, and it sounds terrible when I say it, but like corn water type of a flavor. That's the predominant kind of a flavor for me. I think, I mean, I agree with Avi who gave us this, bottle as a gift. It's decent. I mean, $40 nowadays, it's average price, I would say average, if not a little lower than average, when you throw in the whole
I don't know. I mean,
out
there's a lot of whiskeys that are under $40. They're not necessarily the fastest moving, but then again, take Wild Turkey 101. I mean, that's going to be a under $30 bottle, and it sells like hotcakes all the time. Same thing with Four Roses small batch.
I'm not saying there's great ones under this price. I'm saying average anymore. When you try a new whiskey, I feel, or bourbon, you should be expected. I think you should expect to spend around $40 at least. I mean, if you find one underneath, that's great, perfect. But there's a ton that are way more than $40. That's what I'm saying. Kind of the average would be 40. That's about what I'd expect when I'm going in there. Hey, this is new bourbon.
And when you think about it, this being something that is being sourced from another distillery,
right?
Like $40, knowing it's going to be sourced and knowing it's sourced from MGP. One of those is a 7 year and 5-month barrel. Like honestly, when you think about it being sourced, like $40 probably isn't. That's probably a little bit lower than what a lot of sourced whiskeys are going to come in at.
Yeah, probably anymore. Yeah,
like we had that Nashville Barrel Company just a few weeks ago, and that's a sourced whiskey, and that bottle, depending on how many you bought. I mean, that was a bottle that ran between like $60 and $100. Right. So $40 for a sourced whiskey. I get your point. That's probably coming in at the lower end, being a sourced whiskey. If it was like if they own their own distillery and were making this themselves, then it might come in under 40. But the fact that they're having to source it.
Just never know. Again, the smaller distilleries. I mean, look at the ones local. You can't, buy a bottle of some of the local in Columbus area.
That's true.
That's standard stuff's $40.
Yeah. Watershed, High Bank, Middle West.
Yeah. And then they do their like smaller or other ones. You're 60, 70, now 100.
Yeah.
We were talking about that last week. with like that Watershed, the Marianne Eves, which I still have to pick up. But that's one that's 150 now.
Yeah. Yeah, their everyday products 40, their bottled in bonds 50, their single barrels are 60, and then all of their, limited releases that they do are 100, 150, somewhere around there, unless it's just one of their regular single barrels that's a pick.
Yeah. Tim Dodge says, I'm late. What are you drinking? I got it up on the screen there. The featured drink is Hirsch the Horizon. Because there's a banner there, you can't see the bottle, but there's the bottle if you've got a good picture of it. Can never really see it on there.
And they're keeping with that nautical theme. If you noticed on the bottle top, like it's got the hashes
of a compass
marking degrees. Yeah,
degrees. Yeah. I mean, marketing wise, great. MGP, great. It's just a little light and
lacking.
I don't know, man. It's and again, by itself, it's not hitting. Maybe it's because we've been having some other stuff on the show recently that's full of a lot of character, right?
Yeah,
full of a lot of alcohol too.
I saw one review where someone said it tasted like cornbread.
This one,
yeah.
So there you go, corn. Cornbread's good, man. That's a good review, I think.
When you get some melted butter on top of it,
you want to put some butter in there? We can do it. I think there's butter inside. Maybe some like the spray. Just a couple of hits of that. I can't believe it's not butter. Yeah, well, it isn't.
No, let's go to the movie theater. Let's go to the movie theater and get the pump.
Yeah. The butter flavored topping.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff there. I hate that at the movie theater anymore, that you have to like get a full tub and then try to get it through the top layers. You know what I'm talking about?
You gotta shake it.
That doesn't do anything because it's already hit the popped kernels. It's just like those are like sponges. So when you start eating it at the top, it's like just super wet popcorn. And then by the bottom, it's just plain popcorn. Like back in the day.
But then you have the butter grease on your fingers touching it, and that transfers some of that butter topping.
Yeah, but then if you have to grab your drink, it's
you
always get those like super flimsy napkins too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You're like pulling these things out and it's like tissues. Like this isn't doing anything.
You need like 10 of them because you just rub, you try to wipe your hands, you just rip
you always have to put the napkins underneath the actual popcorn. This is a trick that I don't know if you knew this, but if you go heavy on the butter flavored topping, it could actually get through the cheap bag that they're in or the tub.
Oh yeah,
because it's.
I'm assuming you've had that happen.
I have. Yeah. And it looks terrible when you're walking out of the movie theater. With
you got oil stain on your
crotch.
pants.
Yeah. I was gonna see how far we could go with that one.
Oh, I think we went far enough.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, you could like ask them like, hey, can you put some when they used to do it for you?
Oh yeah.
Can you fill up halfway, put some butter topping on it, and then put the rest in? I mean, it's normal. That's
now
smart.
You have to do it yourself.
But you already have the popcorn.
Yeah.
It's fully loaded. For the one employee running the whole counter. Anyways. So you don't want butter in there?
No.
Okay. Back on track.
I'm not saying it'll make it worse. It might make it better. I don't know.
Be a nice cocktail. What are you drinking? Bourbon and butter. Cheers.
Sounds like an ice cream flavor.
Probably would be pretty good.
Bourbon butter pecan. There you go.
I can't do them. I mean, why you gotta bring up the nuts thing?
Oh, shit.
But whatever.
What are we smoking?
We are smoking the Rocky Patel Disciple. This came out less than a year ago. I want to say it started shipping in, I don't know, like September. It was one of the ones that was part of the PCA, the new releases. I was fortunate enough to smoke one of these before they launched, and I haven't smoked one since because, at Tinder Box don't normally carry it. So that was one of the ones we wanted to bring out for the 10 event and give the VIPs something special. Beautiful packaging, black and kind of a bronze color scheme. The
copper.
Yeah. Copper. Not bronze.
When I think bronze, I think like the BS shirt I have.
All right. It's a coppery bronze on there. Doing something with the packaging. The box, we don't have a box here, but it's kind of the same kind of detail. Black box with, this kind of a copper or whatever you want to call it, color on there. They do Rocky on his site. Basically, the disciple is for the disciples of Rocky, as far as that goes. He's not calling himself
a lord,
to my knowledge, a deity. But he says, in all of our years creating world-class cigars, we've never produced anything that more rigorously adheres to our high standards and dedication to quality. We call it the disciple, and it's anything but a follower.
Okay.
And this is it's coming out of their Tabacusa factory.
I was going to ask you which factory it was coming out of.
Esteli. So it's coming out of the Esteli Tabacusa factory. And it's some of the stuff that Rocky's doing, a lot of some of the new blends. The 60 is San Andres, Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm.
So so this is something that comes in. Let me see what they say. MSRP for the Robusto is 10 to 11. So you can see it on the shelf, probably $11 to $12, I'd imagine, for the Robusto, which is what we're smoking, which is a 5x50. Yeah. So a 5x50. The packaging is nice. It has, mostly he's doing a lot of the newer blends. He's got kind of the traditional band, not the Rocky Patel traditional, but just that traditional band in the normal spot. And then a lot of like this 3/4 or maybe a 2/3 or whatever of it covered with some sort of decorative marketing.
Kind of looks like a shotgun shell.
It does, but it's got very ornate. If you look at that, the ornate detail and the embossment on the what do you call it? Copper.
The foot, that copper foot
on the foot. Now Nate slid his off. I was going to see how it was to tear it off. It's fine.
Yeah. It looks like Tony ate it.
Yeah, a lot of glue on there. A lot of glue. Thick paper. So we have that. But again, on the main band there, you do have the Rocky Patel symbol on the bottom of it, disciple there, and then say anything else on the top? Yeah, Rocky Patel across the top. But very pretty packaging.
Yeah.
Got a hardy wrapper leaf.
Oh yeah, it looks very toothy. Like you can see some of those bumps in the wrapper. So yeah, very toothy. You said Mexican San Andreas, and then all Nicaraguan
filler binder.
Okay.
Which again is what I think. Besides the new Rocky Patel white label, it from what I've number 6 was in there and all that stuff, but he's been coming out with a lot of fuller bodied, the Connecticut broadleaf, and now a lot of San Andres tobacco. And
well, I think you talked about it sometime last year when we were doing another Rocky cigar. Like it seems like over the last couple of years, he started doing more stuff out of that Tabacusa factory in Esteli, and they've been some bolder offerings.
Yeah,
not necessarily the lighter medium body stuff. Like he's starting to do some more bolder flavors. I think we talked about that when we had the 60 last year for his 60th birthday. Yeah, I mean this is one of those that. Like it looks like just a normal. It looks like a Maduro almost, and then you start getting into it, and like there's a lot going on with this cigar on the palate, through the nose.
Yeah,
I had to say that specifically for Bobby Hirschman. I found out why Bobby Hirschman hates the word retrohale.
So if people don't know, Bobby Hirschman is a follower of the community page. He was actually in town for the Smoking Tent event in Columbus, Ohio this last weekend. Quite the character.
Yes, he is. Great dude.
Fantastic.
Super nice guy. Holy
Fantastic.
cow. Super nice guy. Not shy whatsoever.
No.
Like
not an introvert when you're in a crowd there. No.
If he goes to a bar and there's music going, he's going to dance and he's going to find someone to dance with.
Facts.
And then that video is going to be posted on Facebook.
Typically.
Yeah. But no, there's definitely a lot of flavor going on with this one. I do get just a little bit of dryness, which I kind of expect from San Andreas, because we talked about that recently with another cigar that we had that was a San Andreas. It was the McFly that had a Mexican natural. It wasn't San Andreas.
Yeah.
But we kind of talked about it a little bit, how typically with some San Andreas we get quite a bit of dryness. I get just a little bit with this one. It's not much, but definitely a lot of flavor on the palate. A lot of spice through the nose too. Like it's a bold flavor, bold through the nose as well,
but not overpowering.
No,
it's not one that it's going to make you sneeze. Like there's not a whole lot of like tons of spice or tons of pepper. I don't think. No, watch, I'm going to sneeze at some point.
No, I don't get much pepper through the nose. I do get a lot of flavor though through the nose. What would you classify this cigar in terms of the strength?
I'd say medium full, medium push,
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's not like overpowering full body, but it is a stout cigar in my opinion. Yeah. What about you?
No, I agree. I definitely think it's that medium full category, but it's very full on the flavor. I don't necessarily think the finish on the cigar hangs around a lot. It's very clean finish.
Yeah.
Yep. You read my mind. No, I mean the flavor hits and then it goes.
It'll linger in the nose.
Yeah.
It lingers in the nose, but not as much on the palate, like your tongue. It's cleaner on. Yeah. Sean, what do you think? So Sean Wilkinson, who's been on the podcast several times in the audience right now.
I really enjoy this cigar. It's I definitely get some like coffee bean espresso on the palate, but
that's probably that dryness, right? Like that espresso, like little bitter, like just slight.
Sure, but then on the nose, I get a lot of cocoa too. It's a little bit more sweet to it. So I love that there's such a different. It's just different on both ends. It's like you get a completely different flavor whether if you hold it in your mouth or you retrohale. So I like it a lot. Good stuff.
It doesn't dry you out when you say like the clean finish or it's maybe got a little of that sweetness in the because it's like right there in the front and middle of the tongue on that, because I haven't taken a sip of this in a moment here, but I get a little bit more of that kind of on the palate. Yeah,
I just went back to the whiskey.
Cafe. Okay.
I just went back to the whiskey for the first time since we started talking about this cigar. And even though we talked about this cigar having a clean finish, like it doesn't linger on the palate very long, I think that can be a good thing sometimes if you're drinking something with it, because it doesn't necessarily ruin the flavor of what you're drinking right after it.
Yeah,
because
correct.
that flavor's not hanging on the palate and then disturbing the flavor of whatever it is you're drinking. But it's interesting. I think this actually makes this whiskey come across a little bit more balanced.
Really?
I think this cigar actually gets rid of some of that, as you said, corn water taste to it.
You say it like that, it sounds so bad. So negative. Corn water.
Well, it's 75% corn mash bill. But no, like going back to that whiskey, it actually kind of thickened the flavor of the whiskey a little bit.
Brings out a little more depth to the combo.
Yeah.
Did you notice on this band? I mean, Rocky is all about obviously quality, but also ever since like the vintage stuff, but especially more recently with the burn lounges, it's very attention to detail, stylistic. But look at this. What's left of my dog ate it. Just look at the black part of it.
Oh, it's got the bars.
So it's got kind of like the offset black and
like a matte black and a shiny black.
Yeah. We bored Kristen already.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
More of a
part, I never noticed that. And I do remember last year, I believe we had our Rocky Patel rep Rob Wilson on the podcast when we did the 60.
A couple times.
And he actually gave us one of these cigars because I remember smoking this before last year.
Okay.
And it may have been at the shop, like he may have stopped by the shop and dropped off some samples to the employees, or it could have been the podcast. But I remember us smoking this cigar with him and then asking him what the MSRP was on this, because like I said, they had just come out with the 60, which is going to be like mid to upper teens.
Yeah. Pushing 20.
And then you have the white label, which is pushing a $20 price point, I believe.
Yeah.
And so we're like, all right, the 60s in that mid to upper teens, white label's about 20. This is a bold smoke. How much is this going to hurt? And he's like, no, this is like a $10 to $13 cigar. And we're like, are you kidding me? Like this one's the $10 to $13 cigar. Okay, cool. I'll take it.
Yeah. It's coming in at their more or less average price anymore.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, typically nowadays on a cigar, like people come in and, they're not much of a cigar person. And they're like, I'm just getting into cigars. I want to get a cigar. And, all right, how much are you looking to spend? Or, what's your budget? And they'll ask, like, I don't know, how much does a cigar cost? Like, typically average nowadays is going to be, around 11, 12, 13 bucks somewhere in there.
I usually say like $10 to $12 is the average for at least on the shelves in Ohio, because again, Ohio is capped at 54 cents a cigar for tobacco tax.
Yeah.
So,
which is still better than the percentage, I believe.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get 17, like you have to be, I think it's, I forget, like $2.50, $2 or so wholesale to do to the 17. There's like a breaking point where it changes over there. But yeah, $10 to $12. So this would be a little bit towards the top end of your average price.
Yeah. You said this is going to be like 11 or 12 for this Robusto on the shelves in Ohio.
For the Robusto, I would expect this to come in around, somewhere around $11 to $12, depending on the shop that you're at. For Keystone markup, which is, basically normal markup on a, so MSRP, they say what I brought up was $10.50. You add in that tobacco tax, you're pushing 11 to 12.
Yeah.
Wherever it comes in. But I mean, I was really happy, for the Tinderbox side of it, is that we were happy to have this for the VIPs. When Rob Wilson hooked us up with these for that, and we still bought them, but like, it's like still, it was just great to have these for something new to try, so that we can see if there's traction. We want to see if there's something, and that's all part of the fun, even doing the podcast, whether we have someone like Rob Wilson or Rocky on the podcast, but it's something nice to be able to try new stuff, talk about it, and put them in people's hands, especially when you have 150 people coming in and they're getting, close to 20 cigars, and one of them at least is something they've never had. There were more than that at the 10 event, but like this one is something like, hey, this has been out for, 6 months, and many of you probably haven't had this.
What was the other cigar that Rocky Patel gave out?
The vintage 1990. So
and that's
a classic one.
Yeah, that's a cigar that's been around for a while. So
it has.
That's again, that's one of the advantages of the VIP for the 10 event is you're getting a newer cigar that either just came out, maybe the shop doesn't have yet.
Yeah,
like you're getting something a little, something new or something a little higher end. Now, that's not to take away from the vintage 90 because that's still a great smoke.
Yeah, that's one of their classics.
That's one of his bread and butter cigars. But that VIP package with this one, they're getting something just a little bit different, little new, just something extra for those people.
This bottle could be a little dangerous because it's something that, like, I don't know what we're going to rate it, but it's not necessarily not being cast strength, being 92
proof.
92. It goes down really easy, whether it's your favorite or not, but it's light. So
I'll get into it in the ratings, but yeah.
You know what I'm saying, though?
No, I definitely get you.
So I agree with what Sean had said when you were saying that you dove into the notes of the cigar. I mean, that I think there is the richness to it, but you're saying more like espresso. I don't know. I didn't even look at a review of this one, but I mean, I think that this is something that it does have a lot of characteristics. It's not the most complex, but it's a nice blend of flavors of that coffee espresso. You say cocoa, Sean, I'm not going to say the leather type of a thing, but it does actually have that, first time I've probably ever said that. It kind of has that kind of that rich kind of leather aroma.
Yeah.
Kind of like that woodiness too.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the complexity and where it's coming. We talked about the 60 that came out last year. To me, this is kind of like a less complex, slightly toned down version of the 60.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's and it's coming in at a lower price point too. So it's one of those where I think if people enjoyed this cigar, I think they would enjoy the 60 just because it's going to be a little more bold and more complex flavor.
Yeah.
And that's why that cigar garnishes or requests that higher price point for it. But when we reviewed, I mean, that was a really good smoke.
Yeah, I'd put that kind of with in the ballpark of, and I was disappointed to see that the 60, and maybe it was too new, but I didn't see it on any. It might have been on one of the other publications, top 25 actually, but I don't think it hit the aficionado one. But I mean,
it was one of my top 5 new cigars of 2021.
I think that it has those similarities to the caliber of some of the ones you always see, like a Maduro 1926 or something like that,
like a Padron or like the Oliva V.
Absolutely,
because those are always somewhere on that list in the top.
But
10
like the Maduro, it's yeah. So I enjoy the 60, but yeah, this it's good. I do enjoy this cigar. I think for the price point being around that $11-12 for this Robusto, I think it's a fair price point for what it is. I'm interested to see anyone out there, that's listening. If you like it, did you like it? Or to send some feedback to the community page, or just if you are local and you're shopping at the Tinder Box at Easton, give us some feedback on that, and whether or not we should bring it in on the shelves. If you'd buy it, would you buy one again? Would you buy a 5-pack? Would you buy a box? I'm trying to see.
Well, I was looking at Freddie Bird's comment, and we've talked about it in the past. Some people don't really like Rocky Patel cigars, and usually it's because they base their review on like 1 or 2 cigars. Because there was a while there where he kind of had that reputation where it seemed like he was coming out with a new cigar every single month.
Yes.
But I think lately he's actually, and you talked about it a little bit at the start of the review on the cigar. I think lately he's been much more selective about what he does release. And he's not just trying to release a new cigar to, catch a quick burst of market share for that time period. Like, he's actually making cigars that people want and are going to last.
Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, now he's, the brand has gotten to a point where you've got a great diversity. You have a lot of those Honduran, made blends like the vintage series, like the decade. I can't remember where the 15th, but now that he's progressed to that, 15 to now 25 years, you're seeing some newer stuff coming out. The Mexican stuff.
Didn't the quarter century have a San Andreas as well?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah, it did. So definitely, I'm sure he's been buying up some of that and aging some of it, I would imagine, which is where we're at right now. But I think he's added some stuff to the portfolio. I'm not going to say which blends because I don't know all of them, but what you're going to see also, he's adapting, right? So there's some blends that Rocky has had for short time, decent time, that will be discontinued shortly too, as well. So he's not just adding constantly to the portfolio. He is honing it. He's narrowing the focus of it in a sense, not that he's just going to San Andreas, but I mean, he's looking at it. He's like, are we too
trimming the fat a little bit?
There you go. That's a great way to say it. So one of the blends I hear that he's discontinuing is, and I'm not going to say it on here because I don't want to, I haven't seen it in print yet. This is all in verbal conversation with a source, but I mean, it was one that I really liked, but the branding on it was along the lines of, and don't guess, I'm just saying it was along the, Nate's like, which one was it?
Oh, you know my wheels are turning.
I know. Is it this? But it was of the traditional Rocky Patel, like, really kind of the narrow band, and then one below it, like the vintage series where it says, the RP, and then it's got below it vintage, whatever. This was very similar marketing, and I thought the cigar was very good. It was actually I try not to give away too much, but it was actually a combination of two great sellers, if you will. And I guess, I don't know if it's not selling well or what, but I thought that part of the reason it may not have sold well is because of your basic marketing there, where everything else that he's putting out is of this very gorgeous, ornate, or, very, not over the top, not necessarily gaudy, but it does stand out in a humidor, where the other one looks like another Rocky that almost, if it came in a bundle, you'd be like, oh, that's the bundle. That's not the vintage line, that's below it, which it was not the case, but you saw a little bit like I'd say you'd see an evolution in the marketing from Rocky Patel, where you'd see the Rocky Patel Sun Grown, which was just that really basic. I think it was made at Action Label Company, I would imagine, just because at that time they were doing a lot with them and like Perdomo and stuff like that, where it was kind of like the muted, not really this pop, and then the Rocky Patel Sun Grown Maduro, which would be considered, you'd imagine like that's the sun grown, you have the sun grown Maduro. Well, the packaging is completely different.
Oh yeah,
the sun grown Maduro is the evolution to where we're at now with the Rocky Patel.
Well,
packaging.
What he might be doing is, he comes out with a blend like this Disciple or some other newer blends that are starting to hit, and I don't know what Rocky's thinking, but in my mind, what he might be doing is some of those cigars, some of those blends that may not be selling as well, like stop making that cigar, because then he can utilize that tobacco in another cigar that is doing well.
You can, and the other action there is so the old world reserves, right? The Corojo and the Maduro.
Love that. Love the Corojo.
I agree. I like that as well. It was discontinued in like 2012 or whatever, and it came back as a predicate blend for the FDA stuff. You might see that as well with something like the one I'm talking about. They take it off. They don't just rebrand it, because then you have for those that were at the 10 event, for those that weren't, we had the opportunity to do a Q&A session with Eric Espinosa, Laurel Tilley, so Espinosa Cigars, and then Laurel Tilley, who's been on the show with Macanudo, and then Tom Lazuka, the owner of Asylum. They were up on the stage. We were able to do some of the Q&A with them for the VIPs, and it was it's one of those things that they even I forget what the question was, but the comment came out of I think Laurel, but it was the fact that when you repackage something in this industry, same thing with the whiskeys, you slap a new label on it, you take a sip, and especially if it's one that's popular, it's not the same.
Yeah.
No, it is the same cigar. We just literally put it in a different box, change the color scheme, put a new band on it, smoke it. Not the same. It might even come out of a different factory, but that's not even the same wrapper. This is not the same. It's just the mind plays tricks on people. You know what I mean? And I mean, not to say that it doesn't happen the other way.
We talk about that when brands get acquired.
Yeah.
Like, they change it. It's never.
So you could see, the way they work with that. I'm not going to say that Rocky's doing this. This is not a negative thing, but if something's not working, but people that smoke the cigar really enjoy it, but people aren't buying it, you could always let it sit for a year or two, reintroduce it under a different name and packaging.
Gotcha.
As a new cigar. And then you start hearing through the grapevine, that's the same. That's the Rocky Patel Disciple that was discontinued. You know what I mean? Which this is not one of them. This is new. I'm just saying.
You're just using that as an example.
For an example, yeah. Whatever.
Cigar's been out for 6 months. It's already been discontinued. No.
Stay tuned. 2 years from now. But so this is the time where we like to do. And if you guys are out there listening, I hope that you share, like, review, all that good stuff. That's the best way we can get people a part of it. If you're on Facebook listening, make sure you turn your notifications on so you see us every week when we go live. Tonight, when we went on to StreamYard, which is what we use for this stream, which is great. I mean, again, quality's great. The fact that we can use the banners, we can have the conversation up there, all that good stuff. Very, very good system with StreamYard. But right when I logged in to update, like what we're doing tonight, The banner across was like extremely high volume, please try again. I'm like, oh, perfect. So we were like, let's push it off for a half hour.
Yeah.
Post it on the feed. But if you guys are listening to audio as well, make sure you subscribe to it and share it as well. But this is the time of part 1 that we do the rating. So we do the whiskey out of 10, 10 being the best, cigar out of 10, 10 being the best, and the pairing for whatever your logic is, 10 being the best on that one as well. So 3 ratings out of 10. Sean, do you want to chime in?
Yes.
You're drinking the Hirsch as well, correct?
Yes.
All right. So Sean, again, in the audience, he is the one of the audience members that is drinking the same, and also, of the hundreds of people that are in my garage, and also smoking the Disciple here. So
It's
go
a
ahead.
20-car garage.
Yeah.
It's pulled. 2-car.
So with the bourbon, I'll give that like a 7.5, 8. To me, it's okay. It seems kind of young to me. There's not much to
It's
it.
not though.
That's what's weird. It's just
4 year, 10
almost
month.
5 year.
Most of it.
maybe it's because all the bourbon I drank this past Saturday and Thursday could have drowned out what I'm actually tasting now. But
Very possible.
but it just, there's not much of a kick to it, which is fine.
What was your rating again?
7.
7?
Yeah.
I thought you said 7.5 or 8.
You're putting word. Okay, fine.
7. No, stick with 7. That's what
I'll
he
stick
said.
with 7. I meant 7.
If you guys are listening out there, did he say 7 or 7.5 or 8?
He did say 7.5 to 8, but I wanted to.
All right, let's do
7.
7. Fuck it. Cigar, I'll give it.
Sorry, it's one of those like Bob Euchre lines. Like no one's listening anyways. Like, say whatever you want.
You can't say that, man. No one's listening.
No one's listening. Anyways.
I'm gonna
Hey,
switch.
hey.
I'm gonna start getting some Sazerac out here. What's his
Brockmeyer.
Yeah.
I fucking love that show.
Oh gosh,
That was a great show to drink to. I tell you
Oh
that
my
right now.
God.
you got me
yeah.
on to watching that, and I watched all of it in
so
like a
good.
week.
Oof. It gets you. It gets
Side
you.
note: did they sell that here or no?
Brockmeyer? It's
No,
on,
Sazerac.
Sazerac is one of those
That's
where
a tough one.
Yeah,
Have you had it before?
No.
I've got a bottle downstairs.
Do you really?
I've got 2 at home.
Is
I
it hard
had
to get?
2. I have one in the basement.
So when I first bought it, I got
Buffalo
it.
Trace.
Yeah, it's coming out of
Oh,
Buffalo
okay.
Trace. I got it in Ohio. It's like a $26 bottle.
Freddie Burt says 7.5, 8, by the way.
And
Okay, thanks,
but then,
Freddie.
but then I got
Called out.
So when I first got it, like I love that bottle, and I paid like $26 for it because
Yeah.
everyone else was getting like all the other stuff that was a little higher end being released that week,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was that Sazerac left. So I was like, "You guys are idiots! I'm going to grab this bottle for $26."
Wow.
And then I found it in Nashville for 38, and I'm like, I love that bottle enough. I'll pay $38 for it.
Have you guys ever had it on the show?
No, we haven't because it's so hard to get. I thought like maybe I'll save a bottle for.
If I ever
doing the
come
podcast.
across one, I'll buy one for the show for sure.
Yeah,
So-
we can do it. I mean, I've got one. You
I've-
got 2.
I've
I
got
mean,
1.5. Yeah.
I'd like to try it.
um,
Anyway, sorry.
Okay. Anyway, so 7 on the cigar
7 on the cigars. Sorry, everyone.
or
but
whiskey. 7 on the whiskey. 7 on the whiskey.
Cigar, I'll give that 8.5. I really enjoyed it. Usually, like I'll take a hit with the cigar than the drink, and I still
Cannonball.
didn't get much like difference in flavor with the bourbon, but the cigar, Jesus, I forgot what I said. What did I say on the cigar?
8.5.
8.5.
Jesus, dude.
Okay. It's been a long week.
It's
Yeah,
Wednesday.
8.5.
It's
Like I said, the flavor on it is great. You know, you get like as I whispered in Steve's ear, like cafe mocha, because it was like a coffee on the palate and
Oh,
chocolate
Sean
on the
Anderson's in the house.
retro. And but yeah, I'm glad we got another one to smoke we got from the 10 event. So I'm looking forward to having that one again.
Totally different, too. Absolutely different. You're going milder with the second cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pairing.
Right. So pairing overall. Sorry, I'm
And to
Okay.
Nate,
ADD today, man.
So
Sorry.
7 on the whiskey, 8.5 on the
8.5.
cigar.
I'll do an 8.
8.
Yeah. Sorry, it took that long to do it.
No, you're
but-
fine.
no, I'm glad we went through it together, though. Okay, Nate, how about you rating? Oh, cracking the knuckles there. Sean, did he just tune in?
Yeah, he did.
All right. Sean Anderson out there.
All right. So so on the whiskey, and I'm basing this, pre-pot, before we went live. My first impression before we went live on this whiskey, I'm a 6 on it. Not a huge fan. I'm very grateful for Avi for donating the bottle. Appreciate it.
Avi's a 10, clearly.
Avi's a great dude. Yeah, Avi's a 10 and personally. But on the whiskey by itself, before we went live, like I was not a fan. Too light for me. Just it didn't have a depth of flavor. Just so much of that newer oak. You say, heavy corn water type flavor to it.
It's like lack of barrel.
Yeah,
there you go. Lack of barrel.
It does come across like a young whiskey. A lot of tannins. That oak, just straight oak, like it was uncharred oak.
There you go.
So I was not a huge fan. No, Bobby, this is spelled differently. It's Hirsch.
Bobby Hirschman says you just don't like the name Hirsch.
We love you.
We had the whole crew from the weekend tuning in.
We love you, Bobby. On this, like I was not a huge fan of the whiskey itself. The price point is fine. I don't have an issue with the price point because they're sourcing it.
It's just not your thing.
It's coming out. Yeah, it's just not my flavor profile.
Fair. That's fair.
Cigar. On the cigar, I'm an 8 on the cigar. I do enjoy this cigar. It's a good smoke. 8. 8. Yeah. 8 on the cigar. Initially it did have that little bit of dryness, but as I've gotten into both the whiskey and the cigar, like that dryness is kind of gone away. I don't think this is a very complex smoke. It's pretty uniform from start to finish. It's got good flavor. It's got a lot of flavor. Like we talked about, it's a clean finish. It doesn't sit there and just linger on your palate for a while. It's got a lot of flavor through the nose. It's an enjoyable cigar. And I've smoked a few of these now. I actually brought another one that our Rocky Patel rep, Rob Wilson, gave to me at the 10 event. So I brought another one to smoke.
I didn't even get one. Jesus.
Your mic's not on, Sean. No, so I did enjoy the cigar. So 6 on the whiskey, 8 on the cigar. On the pairing, I'm a 7.5. Going like
6, 8, 7.5. Got
like
it.
Smoking the cigar for a while and letting the whiskey sit. When I finally went back to the whiskey, it tasted better.
Mm-hmm.
It came across a little thicker. It had a little bit more sweetness to it, but not that corn water type sweetness. It didn't have as much of that just fresh oak taste to it that I got before we went live. And I think this cigar, because of how strong and rich the cigar is, kind of overpowers this whiskey a little bit, but it actually makes the whiskey come across the palate a little bit better for me.
Got it. Nice. I mean, did you have something to add? Oh my God, Sean, you got
just the wrapper on the cigar. Were you having issues trying to get the wrapper off?
The bands?
Yeah, the bands. Like the bigger.
I did. Yeah, that was what I was saying earlier.
Mine did the same thing.
So he tried to peel his off. Mine slid off and slid off just fine.
But same thing with the main band as well. When I took that off, I mean, so it is a thicker paper. I mean, Rocky definitely
almost like construction paper.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm done. Sorry. Cut it up and make some animals out of it. Whatever. Artists and crafts it. You know?
Do some paper mache.
But even like this, I took that off. It did stay together mostly. The primary band, right? It stayed together, but it did. Yeah, it had a hard time coming off. But it is a very, very thick paper. A lot of embossment, but very, very subtle. I think that might be why, if they wanted to do this design, you couldn't have that. If you look at your wrapper, or I'm sorry, your band. You said, got me saying it now. Look at the primary band that you got right here.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of detail to it.
Oh, yeah.
But the embossment, so the Rocky Patel pops more, but the entire inlay almost looked to the, along the
black stripe.
Not the black stripe, but above and below the black stripe.
Oh, okay.
Just all of that detail in that, it almost looks like an inlay. Like on, if you have like that wood top and it has that strip around it, it's got that inlay, that really, really, really detailed thing. It'd be tough to have that come across on a thinner paper. Gotcha. I think you would mess it up because it's such a very detailed print with that embossment, but like whatever on that die cast. So you'd have to almost really have a thicker paper to be able to have the subtleties of Rocky Patel along the top. Then you have Disciple being embossed on the black, and then you have the Rocky Patel, and everything else is a little bit fainter. You have to be thicker to have that depth. Yeah. So again, that's fantastic as far as the packaging on it. For me, the whiskey, I'm right there. I'm a 7. I mean, I think again, Avi, appreciate it completely. It's not a bad bottle. Even like doing a 6.5 for Nate. I mean, it's a lower rating, but I mean, this is something that it's a little bit honest. Sean and I are both 7s. It's a decent bottle. I mean, Avi said it himself. Decent, a little sweet. This is something that if I had it, truthfully, I wouldn't typically want to restock my bar. I would drink it neat if I hadn't had it in a while and I had about like what's left, a half a bottle or whatever. Like, all right, I'm gonna have a glass of Hirsch tonight. Not a nightcap. This is not not the depth for a nightcap. This could be a killer mixer. This could be a killer. That was my old fashioned.
Yeah. I think
okay. Yeah. So Sean was going to ask about it. So for this would be a great Hirsch, whatever the Horizon. You could call it the Horizon Old Fashioned at a bar, right? So this is something that's like, well, what's the Horizon Old Fashioned? What's the we use Hirsch Horizon on it, and it's a little sweeter Old Fashioned. It's like one of those. It's very marketable in that sense. What's it like by itself? Can I just get a glass of the Hirsch? Absolutely. It's a little lighter. It's corn heavy. But if you like that, there you go. If you're a weeded guy, but you like a little bit more corn, you like that sweetness, the lightness, there you go. Summer, yeah. Throw one little like an ice cube. Too much ice, it would dilute it too much. But
yeah.
So 7.
It's a good bottle with a cigar.
Yeah. Cigar, I'm 8.5. I think I'm kind of with you guys on that. I think the cigar is 8.5. Price point is a factor. Marketing behind it's fantastic. The Disciple might be a little bit much because it could be misconstrued. So he was saying how much, Sean? What's that? 11 to 12. Yeah, something like that for this size. But yeah, 8.5. I think it's a great cigar. I mean, this is when you put it in the Rocky Patel portfolio before you get out into the rest of the world, this is a solid addition to the line. I'm curious to talk to Rob or Rocky or Nish or something like that to see how has this done for you. Are you getting a lot of that rebuys? This would be one that at the event that we were talking about, Smoking 10 event, this was not the biggest seller. I think, the sampler, and I think it was because it was an unknown cigar. Freddie Burt was saying something. There is sometimes a small group of people that Rocky Patel has that negative connotation. We've talked about that on the podcast in the past. No, nothing that he's done. It's just,
when I mentioned
too bad. Alec Bradley's getting to that point a little bit.
Sometimes it's because they've only had like 1 or 2 Rockies and it wasn't their flavor profile.
Yeah.
So they make that judgment across the entire portfolio.
Yeah. So 8.5 on that. The pairing, I didn't get what Nate was talking, to your palate, the fact that it brought out the thickness of it, it might have changed the whiskey a little bit. Not the greatest pairing for me. I would give it a pairing of 7.5. I would much rather.
That's what I gave it.
Okay. I would. Well, yeah, but you were low and hot. You know what I mean? Like I was. Yeah. Yeah. 7.5. It didn't take away from each other. It was just kind of smoking the cigar. I tasted that. The whiskey tasted that. The whiskey was obviously not our favorite, but it was a decent bottle. So not the best. I could definitely grab like that. The Great Scott bottle with the Disciple would be a powerhouse.
What do you think?
We don't have enough left.
What would go?
You looked at your cigar. You're like, well.
Do you have another one of these? Because I do.
Come on.
And I've got another bottle of whiskey.
Keep Sean on there.
Yeah, you're live.
Do you think? What do you think would go good with that whiskey or the Hirsch there?
Honestly, this might go better.
Okay.
The Carenas. That's why I want to. We got half a bottle left, so we can all have a little bit more of this and light this up for part 2 and see how it goes. Man. I think it's got a little bit more like the grassy notes. It might be a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
You're right there.
Yeah, blowing smoke rings.
All right.
That's his name. I'm sorry.
Oh, you dick. Oh, you dick.
Keep it down. Don't wake up, Tony. He's going to wake up anyway. So, guys, thank you for part 1. We're going to do part 2 as well. But I want to thank our sponsors, you guys, first and foremost, not only listening to the show, but I hope you guys share it. I know we have got a great community. This last, and I'll put that up there as well. Please share, like, comment, review, and subscribe on all formats that you enjoy listening to, and tell your friends about it, because that is something that for those that have not been to the Smoking 10 event, it was super cool to see these people from Philadelphia. We had people from Tennessee. We had people from Kentucky. We had people from Georgia. We had people from Florida. We had people from Vietnam. Ray still isn't on because I think he's still in Miami with his daughter. But I mean, it was just so cool to see people meeting for the first time. Like on St. Patrick's Day, we can talk about it a little bit in part 2, but I mean, St. Patrick's Day, like I'm hanging out, I worked and then I hung out at Fido, and it was like a reunion at my local pub. But then all of a sudden, like Sean Anderson from Tennessee, who's been on the show, he supports the show. He was in town for the community. And so he's hanging out. And then all of a sudden, Ray Cheshire gets in town from Vietnam, who used to be a local guy here as well. And so he's now having a drink with me at Patty's Day. I mean, and then Friday night, it was just like everyone was coming to town. And then it's like Saturday, it was this huge culmination of not only what, Brian's built with the Tinder Box, but also with the addition to supplemental was what we've been doing as a community and expanding over the last few years.
Yeah. And
it just all came together and it was just so fun, so much positivity.
What I thought was great, so Sean Anderson and Ray Cheshire, we've seen them a lot of times in the comment section during the live broadcast. We've seen those two go back and forth sometimes with each other.
Oh yeah.
But yet when the two of them meet in person, like they just hit it off. I mean, they became friends because they're drinking whiskey, they're smoking cigars together. It's that community. Yeah. They can disagree on topics and issues and stuff like that, but then with something like the 10 event, they're just coming together to smoke cigars and drink whiskey, and it was just a great time. Like you become a brother at that point.
Yeah, and even like Doug Sifford, he's watching tonight. He was on a couple weeks ago when we did the McFly, and he was saying great event. So he actually. We didn't have his brands there, although he does rep Espinosa elsewhere. So he actually hung out at Eric Espinosa's. But we have Tyler, who's also been on the show, but he ended up just buying a ticket. He's like, and I tell you this now, Doug, but I appreciate you buying a ticket. I hope you got all your swag and everything like that. But you could have just said, hey, can I come and hang out at Espinosa's booth? And be like, yeah, sure, man. No problem. Thanks for the support. But I'd love to see, and this is on you guys, I'd love to see the community get bigger. If you're on Facebook and you have friends that enjoy the show or like cigars, like bourbon, like some of the life topics as well, we have a lot of people on that community page that don't even smoke cigars or drink whiskey. We really do. And it's because of the community. And we had people there that don't even smoke cigars at the tent that really just were happy to meet people this weekend. It was just phenomenal. I disagree with most on this podcast and got along great and drank. Yeah, whatever, Bobby. Go fuck yourself. Or as you say, eat a dick. So patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. You guys can do monthly contributions if you want to do a one-time contribution. Venmo's easier, and it's better for us because there's still a cut there, being a kind of a more of a commercial account, but they don't take their cut like Patreon does.
Or you can just do what Avi does and show up at the garage one day and bring a bottle.
Yeah, just message me, let me know you're coming. Also, I want to thank Tinder Box at Easton. They were the ones that were behind the Rocky Patel Disciple. Not only were they giving it out at the 10 event that we were talking about, but also they did. Brian was cool with us doing this one tonight. So we do have some of these for sale as well at Tinder Box at Easton.
Okay.
So great to check that out. If you were not a VIP at the event and you do live in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to the show, come on in, grab your Disciple Robusto and give it a shot. Also, Altadis USA, we're going to be smoking the St. Louis Rey Carenas, which was highly rated this last year. Thank you very much, Altadis. And Josh Bentley, who has been on the show many times. Hopefully, we'll still get him on the show, but he did get a promotion, but he is still, he's still always got a chair here at the table. So hopefully we can get him on. And whoever he trains to replace him in this territory, hopefully he can say that this is part of the gig.
It's part of the sponsorship in your territory.
Part of the deal, man. Pick a good one there, Josh. BS Cigar Company. We appreciate the gold and silver. Those are available as well. So check them out also. So, and if you guys like the swag, we had a lot of that show up at the 10 event. My gosh, I saw the pink charity shirt. I saw the green charity shirt. I saw hoodies. I saw all that stuff. I mean, buyjack.com/bourbon and BS for all the swag. And we'll continue to add to that as we go forward. So, guys, thank you very much. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. We're going to do a quick intermission, and then we'll do part 2, which is about goals. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, Sean's commenting on the deals at the stock up table that we had this year. Normally we call it the sales table, but Brian's like, no, this year we're calling it the stock up table because the prices on those samplers were insane. And Sean was actually going around and like trying to add up like what the retail cost would have been for all the cigars that he got.
Don't do that. It'll hurt your brain.
Yeah.
Well, because Sean
Hurts my brain.
Sean was one of those guys. Now, Grant and Sean brought up from Tennessee. He brought like 6 bottles of whiskey. He goes, apparently that wasn't enough, and next time I need to bring 12.
Well, it's funny because he was at the shop all day. Well, he crashed at my house on Thursday night. He drove me home, but also it was planned for him to crash here. So, hand in hand there. But
because his hotel wasn't ready until Friday.
Yeah, but he brought in like, I think 5, I thought. And then he gave you a bottle, gave me a bottle, gave Brian a bottle of Eagle Rare.
Yeah.
And so by the end of Friday night, it was like he had gone through all the bottles, and not just himself. He was sharing.
Yes.
To everyone.
Yeah.
Super gracious individual. Yes. And he's like, well, I guess we're done for the night. I'm like, I still have the bottle of Eagle Rare you just gave me. He's like, well, I'll just get you another one then, and I was like, yeah, no, or don't. Like, this is like what I would do with the bottle. Here you go. And so that thing with as many people were in the shop on Friday night at that point, gone in like 30 seconds.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Boom.
I didn't even have a glass out of the Eagle Rare.
I think I did. I don't know. I was already feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
An hour, it was lack of sleep. Great time.
But no, I remember Sean was one of those, like, he was telling Brian the night before the tenement that he was just going to go up to the sampler table, the stock up table, as Brian called it, and he was just going to get one of every single sampler.
Yeah.
He was going to do just one of every single sampler. But Brian, the owner of the Tinder Box at Easton, is a nice enough guy that he actually told Sean, he's like, well, based on what you like maybe stay away from these samplers and double up on these other ones because it hits your palate a little bit more, because he doesn't want to necessarily spend money on cigars that he may not enjoy. But I think Sean still did like one of each of the samplers.
And he was funny. He just commented. I was going to say that he didn't smoke any of the cigars from the tables, or the sales table or stock up table.
He kept coming into the shop.
He would just buy cigars, and then he was funny. He like asked like Laurel from Macanitos, like, what do you think I would like from you guys? She's like, well, I'll try the orange. So he's like smoking the orange. I think that might have been on actually Thursday, but
no. It was Saturday.
Yeah.
He came into the store 3 times and bought cigars off the shelf and was smoking cigars out of the shop and wanted to save everything he got from the 10 event.
Yeah, it was cool.
So that way he could count up like how many cigars he actually came away with from the 10 event.
And Kristen texted me. She wouldn't put it on the feed, but she said, don't tell Bobby to eat a dick. And that's his terms of endearment, just for the record. I'm not being aggressive. That's like my go fuck yourself. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing as I love you. Rub it on your chest. All right. You guys want to get into this?
Yeah, I smoked that Disciple all the way down to the nub. It's good smoke.
Probably hit the head right now, but I'm going to hold it out. So I might tag. Are you sticking around for the long haul?
If you need to go before we start.
I probably should, but we're going to see what happens. I don't want everyone waiting. I'll just tag Sean in, kick him out, or just I'll scoot over and I'll pull up a chair and we'll get a mic up here. How about that?
I do have a mic plugged in and ready.
Oh, there you go. So if my old man bladder takes over. All right. This tune I got off that shirt. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is Steve Crane, and this is Whiskey Wednesday. I got Nate Hale here as well. Beyond the BS. We are coming off of a very long week here in Columbus at the Tinder Box at Easton. A lot of hours, a lot of work, a lot of drinks, a lot of friends. Not necessarily in that order, but I mean, it's all accurate. And little sleep.
Well, you were fortunate enough to have Sunday off.
And I had Monday off too, which is I needed that as well.
Yeah. I still had to work Sunday because I told you, I was like, man, Sunday, there were times I was struggling just to put a sentence together because I was just because I was at the shop Friday all day. I was at the shop Saturday all day. I know you got there, 2 hours before I got there.
I was there at 5:30. Brian was there at like 3-ish.
Yeah, I got there.
I got there. Pulled everything off of his truck, minus the box that flew off. We don't know what was in it, but luckily he was on the road at like whatever 3 a.m. So there wasn't much traffic, and someone got some hats maybe if they pulled off or whatever it might be.
But yeah, like you were there from 5:30, and I think you went home about 7, something like that.
Nope. I went over and ate dinner, and I went home around 9:30.
I left the shop at 9:30. Yeah, because like I said,
I was useless. I mean, I couldn't walk at that point.
Yeah. Josh was there at like 5:30 as well, and he and I were in the shop the whole time.
He helped me out with the tables in the morning.
Yeah, and
those wood tables are no joke, man.
Oh no, they're heavy. I remember that. I remember that from a few years ago.
Yeah.
But no, he and I were in the shop running the shop. And that was the crazy thing. Like, it was a normal Saturday. We did have, several people from the tent event come in during the event, but it wasn't like the shop was full of them. It was a normal Saturday, but one less person in the shop because every other staff member was out in the tent. And so Josh and I mean, we were busy.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing about that event for you guys. We're talking about this with goals, because that is a goal for us to be able to do that event here. And it's a good, not only literal talking point, but also a good, metaphor when you can actually translate it to other parallels. But it's cool to tell someone that's been to that event and they're like, man, that's a lot going on. Fido, the Irish pub next door, they cater it. It's in the collaborated tent for that day. They manage the bar, so not including their kitchen staff and the 2 bartenders, 2 servers. But I mean, a total staff of less than 10 or less people is what does that. And that, I mean, obviously the vendors do their part, but you figure you got people that don't even work at the shop anymore, and they come back and they more or less volunteer to work that. You know what I mean? So we had, Brandon was out there. Dan works 1 day a week. Ron, who used to be a guy that was there a lot, and he doesn't work there anymore. And he came and helped out all day long. And then you have our staff of, when I send in payroll, I think it's 5 people, 6 people plus Brian.
5 plus Brian.
Something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, you figure it's a lot goes into it, but it was a great success. We had a lot of fun. All positive feedback. A lot of you guys in the bourbon and BS community, you guys were there, and I appreciate you being in town. Next year when you come in town for it, if you do, I may have to duck out early. I mean, me trying to hang out on Thursday, and then Friday night I was like, I'm gonna go home, 4, maybe take a nap, walk Tony, and I'll come back and I'll set up tables. And it was like, nope, everyone's here already. I'm just gonna do that.
Well, because Eric Espinoza showed up around 5 o'clock, and then right after that, Tom Lazuka showed up.
And Kristen was sweet and came over and took out.
Yeah, and then like
she was a champ this weekend.
Yeah.
She saw.
And then like half the reps that were going to be there at the tent event also came in the Tinder Box Friday night. So I mean,
after the Tinder Box closed an hour late, and then all of a sudden more people showed up outside front. So
yeah,
jeez. So yeah, great time. But the topic tonight is you met your goal, so what? So this is something that I think that, there's a lot of talking points to this, but I mean, just to start with that is, so when you have like a big goal, like a big event like that, where it's like, all right, there's a lot of planning involved, like people, and I hear this, from reps just to talk about that specifically, and then we'll branch off into what you guys want to talk about or how this goes as far as other career, everyday life, health, fitness, and then also relationship, just getting through life, as far as goals. But it's always nice to hear when reps will say, hey, I'm this shop, they want to do a multi-vendor event. They've even heard about your event and they want to do one in April. And they were like, I talked to him 2 weeks ago. He's like, no. He's like, you don't understand. You can't just do it. You can't just be like, all right, do it. He's like, these guys start promoting it like 10 to 12 weeks beforehand.
Well,
but before that, it's all the prep. I mean, it's like for us in Ohio, exactly, Columbus, my first email to the fire department is in August.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's like, where are you going to host it? Where are you going to hold it? Where are you going to, what do you want to do? How many people do you want? How are you going to organize it? Like, what do you going to do food? You're going to do like all that stuff that goes into it. and it's like, yeah, we want to do a multi-vendor event. You can do something where you just invite like all the vendors and then you put a Facebook post out there, but it's like, what do you want the experience to be? And that's the whole thing. Like for us, it was the goal of, you're not going to make everyone happy. We had 250 people in the tent, but we had, I think when it's all said and done, 231 attendees.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, in the past, people have told us some negative feedback, whatever, be like, oh, there weren't enough chairs. There wasn't this, like whatever, like small stuff. Or I didn't like all the cigars. I'm more of a mild smoke, whatever it was. But like, you're not going to make everyone happy. But the goal is to throw an event that we want to throw, make sure that it goes as smooth as possible. Hopefully we think of everything, and then everyone has a good time. It doesn't matter if the staff has a good time. It doesn't matter if, we're all beat up. And I appreciate a lot of those people out there saying that, is like, to the entire staff working it, not just Brian, not just me, but the entire staff. It's like, oh, you must be just beat up. And it's like, I am, but it was worth it. Like, I'm glad you guys had a good time. It was a good day for the shop, and that's why we do it. I mean, it is a long time, building up to this point, but this is that climax that it's there, that we did it. But part of that also is that once something like that is done, like, what's next? Like, it's like that we've had those on, like, what have you done for me lately? We've done, like, you hit it, like, what do you do next? Do you just go back to the daily grind and just back to the boring day in, day out? You know what I mean? Like, or do you start working on what your next goal is?
I think when you have something as big as the Smoking 10 event is, all the time, all the prep work that goes into it, and then all the hours that day, guys being there at 3 a.m, 5:30 in the morning, 8 a.m, like, working shifts that are not their normal shift. Like, there's a ton that goes into it. And when you pull it off and it's a success, I think it's okay to have a little bit of time where you kind of take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have basically 6 months of work that goes into this event, a lot of hours, right up to the event and the day of. It's okay to take a breather. It's okay to relax. Like, cool, we got this. You don't immediately have to start planning the next event. You don't immediately have to start planning the next Smoking 10 event that's 364 days later. Like, it's okay to, all right, we did what we needed to do. Everyone's beat. Let's relax. Let's get back to the daily stuff. Let's make sure all the daily stuff's good. Let's focus on the shop, on the day-to-day operations. Let's take care of all that stuff, because if you want to do another event during the summer or during the fall, like, the steak dinner and stuff that usually do with Espinosa. If you want to do an event like that's cool, because those one brand events don't take a whole lot of setup. You basically work with your rep, find out, what works for their travel schedule. Because it always sucks when a shop wants to do an event. Like, when I was a rep, I had, my weeks planned out. I had a rotation of when I was going to be in different parts of my territory. And if a shop wanted to have an event, I would have to look on my calendar and be like, okay, originally I was going to be in this part of my territory, but if you want to do an event, I got to make some changes to my schedule in order to accompany that event. Because I don't want to be like, say, I don't want to be in Ohio one week and then the next week I'm supposed to be in Wisconsin, but another shop in Ohio wants to do an event that week. Rework some stuff. Okay, move my Wisconsin trip up a week early so that way I can be back in Ohio the week of that event. Because we've actually talked to some reps that, they did an event, say, in Pennsylvania or Michigan, or they were in their territory, and then they drove 4 or 5 hours just to do an event.
Yeah.
And then they got to go right back into the territory they were just in.
You have to be smart about it.
Yeah. So doing single vendor events, those are a little easier. The multi-vendor events take a lot of prep work. So it's okay when you pull that off, take a little bit of a breather. You don't necessarily have to, just start racking your brain around the next big thing.
Agreed. I think, for me, my mentality, and it's not everyone's, but I, as quickly as possible, while everything's still fresh, it is something that when you hit a goal, whether it be you personally or whatever it is, but like, again, very literally with something like this is that you want to review it. You can take a couple days, obviously recover from it. It's like, when team wins the Super Bowl, all right, everyone will meet next week. Go have a week, do whatever you want to do. Go see the family, take a vacation, whatever it is, drink your face off, whatever it is, right? Everything you've not done to get to this point, go have at it. We'll see you a week from Monday, whatever it is. But it is to review the success, review the whole goal. Like, what made it harder to achieve the goal? What made it easier? What were the learning points that you had from this? This is a very valuable step. It's not about necessarily, yes, you have to do your day to day, but it's not necessarily about like doing it again. What can I do better? Like resting on your laurels. Neither of those. It's let's look at it. Let's dissect what happened. What feedback do we have for the team? What do we have going on here? What can you do better? What can we do worse? What hiccups did you have in the shop? What hiccups did you have in the tent? What happened at the sales table that we could do better? What was really good about the sales table? What was good, with the crowd? What were you thinking? What was the feedback during the event? You have so much knowledge at that point before it fades that the review of the goal is so important. So that you can not only grow and just focus on the negatives or whatever it might be, but it's like, hey, for a team, or if it's just you, it's like sit there and reflect. Really, that reflection moment on the goal, especially if it is a success, is like you take that moment to really reflect on the entire situation. What could have made this better or easier?
That kind of goes into what Sean Anderson had just talked about with his military experience. He talked about doing an after action report.
Exactly it.
You do same thing. You do it while it's fresh. There was a position I had with my company just on top of my actual job title, where I was an emergency floor leader for like when they had evacuations and stuff like that. The very first situation that came up a week after we had a meeting, like I had a notepad with what I saw we did wrong and issues to address. But then the people that were in charge of that group never had a meeting. So here I have like all these problems that I saw, but they never met about it.
You have to be open to feedback. I mean, you really do.
And that was one of those things that actually made me give up that responsibility. I was like, if we're not like, here's problems I saw. If we're not going to meet and talk about the problems, then, why should I care? Like,
I don't want to say again, it's the where can we do better? It's not necessarily a negative connotation. It's like, what hurdles did you have? You know what I mean? What are we dealing with here?
Well, and there were a couple customers that came into the shop on Sunday, the day after the event, and they were already talking about things to do next year to make it better. And I'm like, cool, you're talking to the wrong person.
Email eastontinderbox@gmail.com.
Like I appreciate that person's I appreciate that person's feedback, but telling me like that's not necessarily going to make that go anywhere. No. Speak to the people that are in charge. But
so that is where you talk to the team.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. There is a value there, is that you talk to the team, because what did you hear? What did you hear? What did you hear? What is your feedback? And that's the point where, like, if you hear something, then in that situation you can have that. I mean, this is something that I look at even on like a personal, with the sports analogy thing. You know what I mean? It's like, we won the championship, but not without the struggles. What was it? Or you get an injury. How could I have prevented this injury? Is it preventable, or was it a freak of nature? You know what I mean? If I would have had a better nutrition or stretching or, strength training or whatever it is, like from a physical standpoint, same thing. If you reach your goal, like that's the whole thing. You met your goal, so what? But on the flip side of that, you missed your goal. Why? You know what I mean? These are those constant. I mean, what Sean was saying about what did he call it? The
after action report.
After action report. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is a review of the situation. I mean, this is something that whether you succeed or you don't. Thank you for blowing on my face there.
Sorry.
It's great circulation there. But it's like whether you succeed or not. I mean, it's a review. It's a reflection standpoint. Sean, what do you have?
Just regarding the subject itself and whether it's like another good thing is nutrition or weight loss is if like you get to your goal and you reached it, now what? Or not just for that, anything. There's sometimes can be a level of complacency. Like I reached the pinnacle. I'm set. You work so hard for it, but once you get there, it's easy to be like, take that little time off to celebrate, but you can easily take that time off to celebrate, and that turns into a longer period of time, and then you start falling back to the way you were. So it's interesting to look at how you guys are looking at it with the way the tent event was, because that was my first time ever being to one, and
best one out of the.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was amazing, and I had the most awesome time. It was so good to reconnect with people that I haven't seen in a while, people I've never seen before, and but just as you guys, it's good that you were thinking of like taking some time off to rest and recover, but like you said, learn from what you did from this, saying it's the best one and duplicating that every year, or taking it to the next level the next year. But
the same thing though, it's the best one, right? So I'll let you get in there maybe before I change the gear a little bit, but so best event, right? So the best goal, right? Best season, best whatever. And you're like, all right, I'm just going to do it. We'll do the same thing next year. That was the best one. Like we'll do, like the next year comes around and the event happens, whatever it might be. And they're like, it was good. It was just like last year. I had a great time.
Yep.
And then the next year it's like, it was good again. Yeah, I had a great time. And the next year you don't buy a ticket.
The expectation's been set so high. And
yeah.
I've been to it before. I'll just buy my cigars and I'm probably busy that weekend, whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Like it loses luster. And over that was the 9th year we did it. And that's where the segue I want to chime into. But Nate, go ahead with what you want to say, and then I want to take control of that again.
Well, so I agree with after something like that after that event's done, like I agree with having a meeting, talking about what worked, what didn't work, and stuff like that while it's fresh in your mind. What I was saying earlier though is, so we just wrapped up the Smoking 10 event. We don't need to start wrapping our heads around planning the next one. We can talk about the one that we just had, what worked, what didn't. Take those notes, but we don't immediately have to jump right back into.
You set the notes aside.
We don't have to immediately
fresh look when you come back. 6 months later.
Yeah, we don't immediately have to start racking our brains about how to make the next one better. Like we just talked about what worked, what didn't. Cool, we got that. Now let's have a little bit of a break where we go back into focusing on the shop.
Sure.
Then once we have that break period, now when August comes around, that's when you and Brian start working on the next event.
So I just call the fire department instead of emailing.
Because honestly, that takes the longest bit. But but
once I get a response back in January, it's great. It's easy.
But then as like
Captain Fowler, if you're listening, you were fantastic.
But so so we do the event in March. Then in August is when the ball starts rolling slowly. It starts gaining speed. Later in the year, then we start talking with the reps about their schedule, planning what we're doing, who we're going to feature, who we're going to bring back, who we're not going to bring back. And then in the beginning, I'm talking about vendors.
Okay.
I'm talking about vendors, not customers.
That's awesome. This is awkward.
And then in the new year, then you're start talking about, all right, what cigars do we bring in and stuff like that. So, you do it piece by piece, but, because this event is not something that takes 12 months to prep and prepare for.
Not actively.
That's
what I want to segue into, though.
Okay, go ahead.
That's the whole thing, like with work reviews, right? Typically annually, you talk about anniversaries, personal relationships. Sean, you just had your what?
It was a 25-year first date.
25th anniversary of the first date, and Sean was on, and I always forget the first episode you were on. Do you remember?
96 or 93 or something.
It's in the 90s there, but check him out when Sean Wilkinson was on. But you're right. You don't need to necessarily plan for the next anniversary, right? Or the next event. But to get to that point and to be prepared for that, I think that is something there that we can actually apply to this. And bear with me with this. You met your goal, so what? I'm not even get to the business side of it yet with like sales and stuff like that. But from a personal level, like, Sean said something about like, from a weight loss thing or whatever. So you want to lose 20 pounds. You lose 20 pounds. You had a plan, you did that. Did you measure it enough? Were you, was there a metric to get you there? Or did you just say, I'm going to go all in, and then you lose your 20 pounds and it's like, all right, so what? Like, now what? What do you do now? You want to lose more weight? Do you want to maintain? How do you do that? Do you, like, how did you get there? That's that reflection aspect of it. But I think the same thing, like 25 years with, your first date anniversary. Okay, 25 years. What's your, like, there is something there as far as the goal is for like the Smoking 10 event. We want to do it next year. All right, everyone in. Fidel, how was your Patty's Day? There's that kind of assessment side of it. Like, is it like in our mind, are we going to do another year of this? You know what I mean? Like with your relationships. Like, all right, we hit 25 years from the first date. We know the ups and downs and all this stuff and all. You in for another year, another 25. Like, what do we need to do to continue to enjoy our time together? Because that was the whole thing. I was, from that standpoint, is that you don't necessarily just need to plan for that next year and start doing that, but there are things that, from the business standpoint, and using the cigar shop as a example, it's like you need to continue to have a healthy business, so you get there, right? So it's from a relationship standpoint, you need to cultivate that everyday relationship, or the everyday mentality, so that you get to have the opportunity to celebrate again, to do that. So there is a little bit of the assessment, of what was the. And I'm not saying if you're that type of person, you can write it all down, but I'm just saying have that conversation with the significant other. I'm so happy, happy anniversary and all that stuff. But if all you do is, cook them breakfast or give them flowers and you just go about your next day, are you putting the work in? You hit that goal, again, in sports, you hear about those players that season's over, they're back to work and they're still like either, working out or doing their drills or studying, the game or whatever the next week. There's a decent balance between, what you've accomplished and what you want to accomplish. But if you just rest on your laurels long enough, you might actually hinder the further success. And that's where I'm saying it's like for that, it's like, yeah, for the 10 event, it's like, yeah, we're not necessarily like, I'm going to email the fire department, Kevin Fowler, and hopefully pass it along to Joe West, who was literally carrying tables with me at the end of it. He was like, he's like, I'm here. I might as well. I was like, dude, stop. And he carried like, chairs and a few tables. But it's like, you send out those thank yous and thank you for everything to make this a big success to people that don't expect those things. So hopefully that you start getting them prepared that we can't wait till next year. Same thing with like an anniversary. It's like, here's all this and to many more years to come. And I can't wait for, hey, do you want to go on a date on, a week from now? Something like that, where it's like you enjoy the success of this. You hit the goal, you hit that benchmark, but you don't just shoot, to your point, Nate, you don't just shoot for the next benchmark. You literally like, I got to start working again now. I got to enjoy the moment, but we need to like be active. It's not all work. I'm not saying like, take the fun out of it. I'm saying like, how do I keep this exciting? How do I keep this from going into over time, whether it be work successes, if you are in sports, if you're doing the fitness thing, you lose 20 pounds or whatever. If you hit your 25-year anniversary and it's like, I did this, now I can sit back. Everything's going to take care of itself. Bullshit. It's not.
No.
Well, I think that's what separates good players from great players, good businesses from great businesses, good relationships from great relationships. They have that big event, that anniversary, that milestone. They achieve it, and they're happy that they achieved it, but they immediately get back into the work that goes into it. With something like the Tinder Box, that work is, I think, kind of the day-to-day stuff, because in order for the shop to put on a great event, the shop has to be healthy. The shop has to be doing good business. It has to have a good staff, people that are happy to be there. Same thing with a pro ball player. That a great player, after they win the championship, or if their team doesn't win the championship, they are at least going back into the workout. They're hitting the weight room. They're doing
that's what I'm saying.
In a relationship, you hit your anniversary, cool. But then after that, like, you're still going out, you're still doing things for one another.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, I agree completely. I mean, that's exactly what I said. You know what I mean? Like that is it. It's constant effort.
Sean.
Yeah.
Like what you guys are saying, I had a company I used to work for.
I think we're on the same page, Nate.
Yeah, you guys are.
I just went into more words with it.
Yeah, you guys are synced up. When I worked for one of the charter companies,
no,
one of the many companies I work with, but I used to have a CEO that he micromanaged and shit. But I will give him credit for this, because he would say, like, every month we'd have a goal to make, like, we got to make $5 million to break even. Then anything over that, we're going to start making money. So, and every month that he was up in our face every day, you need to sell. And then if you'd land like a really big trip that would contribute to it, that would get like a big chunk of that change in there, he'd be like, great, now what do you have? Now what? It was, now that I get that, and I appreciate,
no pat on the back, no acknowledgement of hitting the goal.
Nope.
All right, so what's your
So
I get where you're going.
So with that, it was never good enough, and he kind of motivated by fear and
fire and brimstone, we used to call that.
Yeah, and it was a lot of, and then he would play us against the other people who were trying to sell. Oh, so and so made more than you did today. What are you going to do? And that shit used to drive me crazy.
Try that with parenting. I'm not a parent, but if you had a couple kids, you're like, yeah, no, thank you for doing that, but your brother did this.
Right. I never.
It's terrible.
So when
but let him
finish.
Sorry.
Real quick. So I took what he did with that, and now that I'm with a company that I still sell charter, I get a lot of that of boys and a lot of like thank yous and great jobs and stuff like that. But I also take what he taught. He taught me was, that's awesome. They gave me a pat on the back, but now I get to keep moving. I can't stop.
Are you done, or are you going to keep going?
Yeah, I keep going. I mean,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, even though it's easier for me to keep going because of the affirmation and the pats on the back and the good jobs that I get. It motivates me more to sell more because I'm getting recognition for it. Nothing. I don't want to fucking throwing a parade for me, but just to
be nice though.
It would be very nice.
I'll go to it.
Okay. I'll put you on a float. So
throw candy off the.
Yeah. So
candy, or am I getting?
But candy? The fact that small gesture of excellent work, doing great, that just fires me up even more to sell more and work harder.
You literally can do the same kind of thing where you combine the two of them. In your mind, you're already there. But I mean, as someone that is a leader, there is something when you have that team, you can say like, what a great, event, or great year, or great sale, or great whatever it is. Hey, enjoy it. Let's sit down on Monday, it's type that work verbiage, let's sit on Monday, let's sit down at 9. Just start thinking about like, what was the big success there? What got you there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then also if you is there something that we can do to make it more repetitive so you can actually have repeated success. And you'll take, I mean, not everyone's different. I'm not saying like you look like a salesman when I'm saying that, but it's like, it's like, dude, this great job, like you nailed it. Fantastic. Like, let's let's circle back. I hate that work jargon, circle back. I absolutely hate that. But let's hook up. God, I hate that too. I don't know how to like talk like
reconvene.
Working. Don't say. You want to sit down on Monday and just like kind of like say like tell me how you nailed it, and then anything that we can do or you can do that's going to make it easier to do it again. And then in the sit down, it's like, what was your biggest hurdle of hitting that, or like in the past that didn't hit this? Like, it's just a way that you talk about it. It's a awesome. Positive mindset.
Fuck yeah, man.
Like you can focus on the negative. You can be like, oh no, it's just back. All right. Thanks. What have you done for me lately? Or like, all right, well, we did it. Cool.
So now I do I run the sales team. There's only one person with me, but we're going to hire more. And I've kind of taken the lead as that.
Sean says, don't say circle back. I know.
So, but when the person that's working with me, when she lands a good trip or does some, I'm giving all the love in the world. And what we've been doing too, is if one of us books a good trip or does whatever, I look at it as we did as a team, because I would work with the companies where the CEO would pin us against each other. And then there was animosity towards each other because, well, he only did this, but you did that. And there was times I'd get up at 4 a.m. to try to be more competitive to sell a trip before the other person would.
That's short-lived though.
I know, it's fucking, and that's why my stress level was through the roof and I was miserable for fucking so long. But now it's like where I'm at now, it's like music to my ears, but it seems like it happens more often than I've thought, but I've just never been in that situation. So that's why I love being where I'm at now, because there is that resonant recognition. We work as a team. We're like a damn family, and we have each other's back, and we keep trying to work hard. It motivates us that much easier.
It's the same thing. Go ahead, Nate.
Well, so when I was working with sales reps in my
thank you, Sean, by the way, for sharing that. That's very impactful in my opinion.
When I was working with sales reps in my previous role with my company, there was a sales rep. So the goals that that management sets for every single sales rep is a dollar amount, but selling a commodity. So in my line of work, you're supposed to hit a dollar amount for how much electricity you sell, how much natural gas you sell. And you have a total goal that you're supposed to hit for the year. Well, there was one sales rep that spent about a year working on a deal with a customer who was going to be building a new facility in the Central Ohio area. And this deal was not going to count towards his commodity number. It was an on-site generation type of deal where that company was actually going to have like solar panels or windmills on site. And it took 12 months to get this deal done. A normal contract, a normal business contract in my line of work is like 7 or 8 pages. This was 82 pages. All right. This was an 82-page.
Got some depth there.
It was an 82-page deal that went back and forth multiple times. And when the ink dried on the paper, it ended up being like a $30 million deal for the company. None of that $30 million went towards his commodity goal for the year. So
why?
Because he wasn't actually selling, like he didn't actually sell electricity or natural gas to that customer. He sold an on-site generation and stuff like that, which is what they're supposed to do, but it's separate from the commodity number that they're supposed to hit. So at the end of the year, he was like halfway to his commodity number, but still landed the biggest deal in the company. And I remember I would go up and talk to him about it. And he's like, and I congratulated him when that deal got done.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I just hope when they do my review and see my number at the end of the year, they realize I did that work and it took me away from selling the commodity side of the business. And even though I don't hit goal, I hope they at least look at that and appreciate all the effort and hours and everything that went into that. But it was still one of those where, you know, they had a newer sales manager in that role, and they're like, yeah, your goal was 4 million this year. You only did 2. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, are you fucking kidding me? I did a $30 million deal for you. Like, what? Like, because they weren't looking at necessarily the whole picture. But then the rep I was working for on a daily basis, you know, like the first part of the year, he would absolutely kill it, when typically that's the slowest part of the year. And so by the time June rolls around, he's way ahead of pace to hit plan. And I would sit there, I'm like, dude, you're crushing it. Like, why are you killing yourself to land all these little deals? You know, he wasn't necessarily riding me, but he's like, hey, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? And I'm like, it's coming. Like, I got it taken care of. But like, he was always looking at the next deal, the next deal, the next deal. I'm like, dude, like, you're way ahead of plan. He's like, yeah, but something could happen and things could slow down.
So
I don't
playing the game.
You
got to know it pays the bills, right?
Yeah. But like, he was one of those, he liked to have a lot of little wins, whereas some of the guys were like, yeah, I'll make half my year off of one customer. Kind of like in the opening of The Office, Jim had the one customer that was like 80% of his year number, and then Dwight stole it from him. He's like, well, fuck, now I got to actually work. Now I actually got to work my ass off in order to hit my number. But no, like, different sales reps look at it differently, because, you know, we had one sales rep that most of his number was off of one customer, and then he lost that customer.
Yeah.
And now suddenly he wasn't hitting the numbers that he used to. When you're a sales rep in that industry, you know, you're basically just straight commission. So now his paycheck is being affected because he lost a customer. Whereas the rep I was working with, when you're signing 1,800 deals in a year and you lose one customer, that's not a big impact. When you're only doing 100 deals and you lose one, it's a little bit more significant.
All right. So I was going to say something, but how would you relate that to personal relationships? Mm-hmm. I know you walked out, but I mean,
what I brought up before about from my previous employer and stuff like that, about comparing it to that.
Well, what he was talking about was basically, it was like you land that big one, right? But it may not. You have one mindset where you're doing all the little wins to make the greater one. What's next? Like, what can I do like next? All this stuff. And then you have the one person working on the long-term deal, and then you land it, but then it doesn't hit your like, well, the goal, right? I mean, so, or if you lose that big deal, that big contract that you worked so hard to get, but then you lose that, and all of a sudden you don't basically have anything. How does that equate to relationships? Anyone? I have an answer.
Please, because that's a good question, but I can't think.
Nate? There's no right answer to sales, you know. But
I think when it comes to relationships, like, you can't just sit there and be like, you know, I'm going to go all out on their birthday. I'm going to go all out on our anniversary, and then not do anything in between.
Yeah.
What I've experienced in my relationship with my wife is, when I do the little things repeatedly over time, then when we hit the anniversaries or we hit her birthday, and then I do a little bit more. I do a little extra. I go above and beyond a little bit, maybe. It makes that day seem more special, but then I don't turn around and stop doing all the little things that got me there.
Right. Why is that?
As my wife just texted me, you have to keep putting the deposits in the bank.
Bingo. You hit your whale, right? You know, you hit your whale. You land it.
Wait, what would you call? What'd you call? No.
Jess knows where I'm going with this before you guys do. No, you land your whale, right? You know what I mean? You put all the work into the long-term work. So, you know, Sean, you Sean Wilkinson, who's in the garage still, he went out and get a sweatshirt because it is getting a little cooler out here. But you missed that part of it, where it's like this person put in all the work long term and landed the whale, a great account, it's huge, and it just didn't pan out in the review, the annual numbers and all that stuff. But then you have these accounts that they have 80% of their security that leaves, and now they have nothing. Now there's two sides of that. You can do the little wins all the time, or you can cultivate that big win on a constant basis and not just rest on your laurels thinking they're always going to be there. So from a personal standpoint, right? What my point is that constant effort is always very imperative, because you work your ass off. We talked about this in personal relationships in the past on the show, where it's like, you first impression, like, first date, all stuff, you put your best self forward. It might not be really who you are on a daily basis. You know what I mean? You present yourself in a good way. Same thing with a job interview. You finally land that job. You land that person, that girl or whatever, man or whatever, so you land that. And then you work on it, you cultivate it, and you finally like get married or whatever it might be. And you've done it.
It's a big sale to get someone to marry you.
You've done it. But you don't keep putting in the work. Mm-hmm. And then when you realize that you didn't put in the work and you're cashing those paychecks from the residual income, or in life, you've got your shit going on, like, everything's good. You lose that whale, you got nothing. So you met your goal, so what? You got to keep going. You got to keep showing those little wins to really cultivate that whale. You really have to be full-blown effort all the time. Now, you have your shortcomings. You might not be able to like always be at the beck and call when that client calls you, right? You know what I mean? Like, I can't bend over backwards for you all the time. I appreciate your business. And if that whale of a customer is constantly asking for more and taking advantage of that's the other side of it. That it may not be worth it anymore. Yeah. But from the personal side of it is that hopefully you have that healthy relationship that everyone, like, you cultivate that relationship. You cultivate that big win, that person in your life, that sales customer is that, hey, I can't do that. I can't. It's just not, that's not how this works. You know what I mean?
Well, Sean Anderson talked about, and he was talking about from a personal relationship standpoint, what it takes to hook that person is also what it takes to keep that person.
100%.
And sometimes it's the same way in business.
Sean, you and Dustin know what I'm talking about.
Most of the deals that you win in business, in the experience that I've been in with my company, like when that contract comes up for renewal, just because you're the current supplier doesn't mean they're automatically going to sign with you. In fact, we actually did a study over our last 6 years of sales, and we actually found that in certain aspects, customers were more likely to switch to another competitor, just because they were either shopping for the absolute best, or someone was just trying to undercut you to win the business. But you still have to do all the things that it took you to get them the first time to get them the second time.
Yeah.
One of the reps I used to work with on a daily basis inherited a rather large customer, and it was one of those customers that both businesses have a relationship with each other. So there really wasn't a whole lot of risk in their mind of losing that customer because of the relationships. So the first time I worked with that sales rep to get a renewal deal done and keep that customer, I was like, hey, this is a great deal. And he goes, because he felt like he inherited it. He didn't really work to get it.
Okay.
Because it's a customer that's going to stay with us. So, he didn't really celebrate that one that much.
But that's my point. You take it for granted. At some point, you're going to lose that customer. Sean?
I think for a relationship side of things, just for mine being with my wife for so long, obviously at the beginning, you're right. You're doing whatever you can to land it. And once you do, you've got to kind of stay on your A game.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, as we get married, or as we've been married, we have our lulls where that happens, but
ups and downs in any relationship, whatever the parameters
but
are.
I think what kept us going and still keeps us going is we communicate, and we have our fights, and we've had some bad ones, but I think the biggest thing is like, if one or the other is not happy with how things are, we're going to say something about it. And
communication.
Yeah. And there are times where, especially the beginning relationship, Teresa was more quiet. So it took a lot for me to get out of her, just because she was shy, and we were still trying to get to know each other, and it drove me crazy. But as time went on, it was a relief to be able to get her to open up. And then I learned from that and see, okay, this is how she feels. This is how I'm going to, moving forward, try to prevent from whatever did happening, or make more of an effort to do something to make things better. And like we all have, like I said, we have our lulls, and I think that it takes moments like those, like the dips, to really appreciate what you have, because sometimes you don't even see that you could even be in a low part. One maybe think you're fine, the other one's like not seeing it, so we communicate about that, and like, holy shit, I never thought of it that way. And then it's like, I get my ass in gear, start making the effort to make things right again, or to strengthen our relationship.
What I love about your story, and you talked about this the first time you were on, so it's not like I'm giving away a secret or anything. So when you were first on and you talked about your relationship with your wife, Teresa,
mm-hmm.
at one point, right before you got diagnosed with your brain tumor,
mm-hmm.
you guys had actually split.
Yep.
You guys had actually split up.
Yep.
And then you got diagnosed with your illness,
mm-hmm.
and you told her what was going on, and she was right there for you.
Yep.
And you don't necessarily, now you're at the point where you don't have to get a brain tumor every year in order to keep it. Thank God. But
yeah,
scientifically, I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah.
And thankfully
that's bad luck. But no, it made you both realize like what you had, and it kind of spurred you guys to both put in the work and effort to keep what you had and make it better.
Yeah.
And make it stronger and grow it.
Absolutely.
Look, I can tell you this right now. It's like, you want to make a sale, whatever business you're in, I could probably, and this is not about me, but I'm saying that someone could tell you how to make that sale. I'm not going to say I can. Someone can tell you how to make that sale, that big client, whatever. They can tell you, that expert can tell you that. Relationship wise, someone could tell you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
and close the deal. This is what you got to do. This is how you have to act. I'm of the opinion that what do you want out of it is the more important question. Is it just that you want a relationship, you want a marriage, you want a sale, you want commission, you want to be able to lose those 20 pounds? Why do you want to do this? What is it? What is in it for you? That's the biggest question there with all this stuff. You met your goal, so what? I don't care. Like, you want to make a goal? Cool, let's do it. Why the fuck do you want to make a goal? Why do you want to hit that goal? Why do you want to do this? Because if you don't have a reason, then it's you'll get your check, and then you're going to fuck it up. You're going to get your significant other, you're going to fuck it up. You're going to get whatever that goal is. And if you don't have a why for that and why you want to do this, and you can't tell me why you want to do that, not me. You want to tell that person that's giving you advice why you want to do this. There's no reason. It's very surface level. You have to have that deeper thing where it's like, this is what I want out of my life. This relationship, this sale, this whatever the goal is, this goal will not only just, like, if it just makes you happy for that moment because you hit the goal, cool, that's good. It's going to be fleeting, you're going to be fucked. But if you can hit that goal for a reason, because this will give me happiness, because I will have all of this around it. Mm-hmm. I will have the work ethic that got me there. I will have the people around me that got me there. that is the next level type of mentality that you have to have, that you met your goal. So what? I met my goal and now I'm going to do this. I'm going to enjoy how I got there. All that we were talking about earlier, the assessment of all this, like, how did I get to that goal? But if you don't start with the why, you don't start with the reason that you want to have that. Yeah, you want to be in a relationship? Cool. We can get you in a relationship. The people around you can get you a girl or a man or whatever it is. We can get you a job. But once you get that job, you get through the interview process, you can get through all the coaching and everything else, you're going to get that job. But as soon as you get that job, is that what you really want? Are you doing it for just a paycheck?
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing it just so you can buy things? It's truly the why needs to be, this is going to bring you happiness to your definition of happiness. Yep. And if it's very, very surface level, that goal will be very surface level. If it's more compound and it'll be, something that you will be able to enjoy and build off of for a reason, that's the so what. I'll give you so what.
So
No, real quick. I'll just go real quick. What you're saying right there, I lived that, and I did that 7 years ago. I did it for the wrong reasons.
You did what?
Lost 40 pounds.
Okay.
Because I wanted people to recognize me. I wanted the surface level shit. I wanted people to go, oh my God, you lost so much weight. You look great. But it was right when I had that heart thing.
Yep.
And I remember I hit my goal. I almost hit my goal, hit the heart thing, and I actually lost more weight just because of all the shit I was going through. I think at the beginning of the year, I was 250. By the time I was done all the hard shit, well, before I did the hard thing, I was like 220. And then with the hard thing, I was down to 210, maybe 208 at one point. So like 42 pounds. And I remember looking at myself going, fuck, I did it.
Yeah.
But I was like, now what?
So
it's exactly it.
Yeah, right. Like you do it for, yeah.
And it was like, yep, I look thin. I look great. And maybe more because I had that heart thing and put life in perspective yet again, like my brain tumor did, where that shit and that I immediately was like, why the fuck was I worried about that? I'm on my deathbed right now, could possibly die, and I'm worried about how I fucking look.
Yeah.
And I remember it being the most like non-fulfilling goal I've ever reached. And it was a hard goal to get to because I fucking ate like really, I ate very clean. I was on Weight Watchers and I was doing P90X3 every day. And I did all that shit. And
it's P90X. I don't know P90X3.
I do 3. It's 30 minutes. There's a third one. Yeah. There's only 30-minute workout instead of 15.
30X.
It's P90X3.
Okay.
Well, whatever. P30. Jesus. Call Tony Horton and ask him. I don't know.
I'm going to text him right now.
P3
He's all about plant protein right now.
Yeah,
HMB. And just so you guys know.
I know. I
do
saw
follow
that.
Up on,
I saw that.
Take HMB now.
But it was crazy because I felt better. I had more energy, but I never looked at that. I never looked at like, that's what I should have been happy
That's
about.
what I'm talking about.
I should have looked at the fact, man, I feel great. I've got more energy. I'm lighter on my feet. Didn't give a shit about that. And it was the most unfulfilling thing I've ever done.
And what happened after that?
Gained it all back.
Fuck yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's you fail.
Yep.
That short success, the goal. So what?
Yep.
You got like someone, whether it's you or someone else, needs to. I mean, I'm not saying it has to be someone else. Sometimes it's you, but it's like if you have that why, you have the reason that you're doing it, and it has to be a real reason. And I'm not saying that it's like sometimes it is a surface level or whatever it might be. Like you want to lose weight, you want to get that job because then people respect me. But there needs to be, for continued success, is to realize that part of that planning, whether it be the 10 event or whether it be losing the weight, whether meeting that like I want a girlfriend or I want to get married. And it's like, why, again, going back to it, why do you want to get married? Well, because then I'll have someone. Yeah, but just anyone? It's that conversation there internally or externally that you have to have. Truly, I was debating if I say have to, but you do have to have that conversation either internally or externally of why do you want this goal? And then early on, if you hit the goal, where do I go from there? Because if you just have that finish line there, you held the event, you lost the weight, you got the girl, you got married, you got the job, you got the promotion. If you're just living in those moments of these literal finish lines, are you going to die once you get that? Hopefully there's more life to live after that. So put that part into planning, that when you hit that milestone, that benchmark, that goal, when someone asks you, you met your goal, so what? Well, I look great. I got the girl. So what are you going to do now? Shit. I got to keep it. How you going to keep it? Shit. God damn it. I don't want to keep doing P90X. I don't want to keep treating this person right. I don't want to keep working hard at my job. Like, I got it. Yeah, you did. You ready to retire? You ready to like die? Like, you know, it's like, what are you going to do next? You have to have that.
I've seen the runners like these Usain Bolt and all these athletes that actually hit a finish line. They don't fucking stop. They keep going
as long as they can. Yeah.
Yep.
When I was in college and after college, before I met my wife, like I enjoyed having a girlfriend so much that, and I never had a relationship prior to my wife. I never had a relationship with someone that lasted more than 4 months. But
so you were them.
Mostly them.
That's what I expect you to say that.
But like I like the times where I wasn't dating someone, like I missed having someone. I missed having a girlfriend and everything that came with that.
Totally natural.
But at the same time, if I was in a relationship with someone, once I felt that was not someone that I wanted to be married to, I ended the relationship.
Okay.
Because like you're talking about goals. I had to go, like, step one is to get a relationship, then keep it going, and eventually you get to the point where you get married and hopefully you have, happily ever after. But if I was in a relationship with someone, that wasn't the end goal. The next goal was to get engaged and get married. If I was in a relationship with someone and I realized or I felt that this was not someone that I could be married to or wanted to be married to, then I would end the relationship. As much as I did not like being single, I didn't want to waste my time being in a relationship that wasn't going to hit my end goal and bring long-term satisfaction.
All right. So Anne, who's been on the podcast before, let's see, here's a comment right there. To your point, also, sometimes you set a goal and later find out that you actually don't want it anymore because you find better goals. I think that is a evolution. I think that's something that there is, again, that dialogue, whether it be internal, external, whatever, but that there is a growth there. 100%. That's what you're talking about, I think, Nate, with like those relationships, is that, yeah, it might be good. You got the girlfriend because you didn't want to be alone, right? I mean, that's what I was saying earlier with the whole thing. It's
you
like,
got someone to go out with. You got someone to make out with. You want a girlfriend.
We can get you a girlfriend.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
You got the girlfriend, and now you have to, months later, you have that girlfriend. Is that what you want next? There has to be this evolution or self-realization, to Anne's point, that sometimes is that if you set just those short-term goals, you can set short-term goals for the long-term happiness or the long-term goals, but there is a planning aspect to that. You know what I mean? And it's constant effort to that. But if all you do is set it, I want to hold this event again. I want to get a girlfriend. I want to get married. I want to get this job. I want to get all this stuff. You're going to get those things if you do the right moves to get them, and everything works out. Life continues after that.
Yes, it does.
And that's where I think what Ann might be saying, and I pull that up. She's got an example there, but it's the same thing, is that you will have to listen to what you're dealing with life. I mean, that's why there are people that switch jobs. That's why people break up. That's why people, with all good intentions, there's the bad intentions in there as well. I mean, the shortcomings, but all things considered in this conversation is that you want all this stuff. You will realize that you may not have figured out your why or what you're looking for ultimately. And the accomplishments that you had will eventually be building blocks, but you realize that block is not the end all be all that you build off of. You actually take that and you move this block over here, and now you move forward over here. Job wise, relationship wise, same thing with what we were talking about the event in the very beginning. It's like, we did this event for, I'm not saying we're not going to do another smoking 10 event, but it's like you do all this stuff and you're like, you know what? We got to do something completely different. That stuff happens because you have this open dialogue with not only internally, but also externally with the people that are involved.
But I think also when you, like, with career wise, when you talk about, getting that job, I think it's also important that once you get that job, you actually need to focus on that job. And I say that because in my previous position with my company, at one point I had 4 different managers in 4 years, because the managers that would come in, they looked at that role as merely a stepping stone for the next. And
no identity with that role.
And so they never actually put a whole lot into what that role was. So, being a manager of the team I was on, they didn't do any of the work that our team did. They were always doing stuff outside of our team. And it was because they wanted to have a portfolio set up to where they could get the next job when it became available.
Yep.
So in my previous position, I had interviewed to be the manager of that team, and someone else from outside the team got the position, and the person they reported to that I interviewed with literally told me they only expected that person to be in that role for 18 to 24 months.
They know already.
And so when I would actually interview for positions within the company, one of the things I would tell them was a strength with me was, I'm not looking at this job as just the stepping stone for the next one. Like, I want to actually create a foundation and some security within this organization, within this team. So if I was going to be, they always ask that question, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
Right.
They're looking for the answer of not here. In that scenario,
I have found out in the past that sometimes if you give an honest answer to that question, they don't like it. But no, so when I was asked that question, when I was interviewing for that role, I told that person, that manager, I was like, if I enjoy what I'm doing, then I don't mind being here in this same role 5 years later. If I enjoy the work I'm doing, if it satisfies my goals, and I literally enjoy coming to work and doing what I do, why not have someone that is in that role for several years? Instead of the person, I had one manager who was in that role for 3 years, one who was in it for 6 months, one that was in it for 2 years, less than 2 years, and another who was in it for not even 2.5.
Yeah.
So there's constant turnover in that position. I told him, like, look, if I get this job and I enjoy the work, I don't mind bringing some stability into this role, because then you don't have to find someone else, 2 years later.
All right. So I know you well enough, Nate. I'm not going to throw you under the bus here, but Ann threw up this question here. Does anyone have a good answer for that 5-year question? I've interviewed a lot of people, not in the last 9 years working for the Tinder Box, but before that, I spent a decade interviewing hundreds, if not thousands, of people. Frontline, management, sales, all that stuff. Here's the question: If I ask that question, what's your 5-year plan? What do you want to do in 5 years? Here's the answer that I'm looking for: is that no matter what's happening right now, I would love to be with your company. I would love to be in this relationship, like we're talking with Sean, doing 25 years from the first date. What I want to do in 5 years, I'm not sure what I will be doing in 5 years. All I know is I want to be excited about what I'm doing. Because if I'm excited about it, I'm giving you everything I got. Now, that's on you. That's on the employer. It might change, and there's no hard feelings. If you're in a rut and there's no challenges, there's no goals, there's no growth, there's nothing. It's like what you're talking about, Nate, is like stability. Absolutely. But even that stability, there are some people out there that I want to do 30 years or whatever it is, doing the same thing, and I just want to provide for my family. There's nothing wrong with that, because if that is exciting to you, that's fine. But if you want to do more, you want to grow whatever position you're in, you want the next promotion, you are applying for those positions, you want to do all this stuff, you want to grow the business. If the powers that be don't want to do it, you're no longer excited. Now you're in a rut. So if I was interviewing someone again, which I have not had an interview in a long time, and I don't, I miss it, but I don't. But if I had a good answer for the 5-year question, is that I want to be stimulated, I want to be excited, and I can't wait to be in that position 5 years from now, and knowing that in the last 5 years that I have not only been true to myself, but also the people that have challenged me, that I feel challenged in a very positive way, that I am excited to grow whatever we're doing.
So it's funny.
Roll back the tape. All right. That's a long t-shirt. I can't make a t-shirt with that. It's like front, fine print front, and then back, tattoo here.
So full sleeve.
Both sleeves.
So
both sleeves.
It's funny. Before I left to come over here for the podcast tonight, my wife was watching and listening to one of the radio shows that she listens to on a daily basis. And this gentleman had called in, and he's someone that he had owned his own business. And he talked about when he would hire employees, like he would tell them, like, I want you to be excited about coming to work. I want you to be excited about the work you do. Because if you're not, it's just a job. And he used job as an acronym for just out of boredom. Some people do a job just out of boredom because it's just a job. They don't necessarily put a whole lot into it. He wanted to have people working for his company that were going to put in everything they could.
Yeah.
But he also rewarded them for that. Like, and he actually said, I don't want the person that comes in and says, oh, if you hire me, I'll give you 110%. He goes, no, I'm looking for the person that's going to give me 100%.
Mathematically, that's not possible.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He's looking for the person that's going to give me 100% when they're on company time.
Same thing with the whole marriage thing or whatever. Like, you get a girlfriend or you get a boyfriend or whatever. But like, again, Sean, going back to you did a 25-year anniversary of the first date. I think that's super sweet and very romantic. You know what I mean? But when you have this actual anniversary, right? And this is something that I'm not going to say that I failed on this necessarily because of this reason. But if I was to give relationship advice, which all of you out there, I'm not the person you listen to, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you hit an anniversary, you get married or whatever, and part of the deal is that when you get married, whether you're religious or not, it's forever. And divorce is almost as common as marriage at this point. Because I think that it's like you hit that goal. You know what that goal means. Like, why do you want to get married? Why do you want to get that job? Why do you want to get that career? It is exactly that 5-year question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Married. If that's all you're saying, if you don't say in the job interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I want your job, because you never want to say that, but you want to say that because whatever website you listen to or whatever, it's like, well, I want your job. And it's like, well, I'm not going to hire you because I want my job. You have to read the room in a sense that you have to say what I said is that I want to be excited about what we're doing. I want growth. And if there is growth available in the job, or obviously if you're really settling down and you're getting to that point that you're like, I want to be married. It's like, do you want to be married in 5 years? What are you going to do about it? You met your goal. So what? That's the topic tonight. You got married. And maybe, I was the best man in Dustin's wedding. I'm going to be the best man in Jake's wedding. And if I got my wits about me and Jake's like, what do you got for me as far as advice as my best man? I'm like, so here we are. So what? What's your 5-year plan? And I don't think he's listening tonight, but that, again, being that old person that used to do job interviews like 2, 3, 4 times a day, I would want him to say, and if he doesn't answer it right, I'm gonna be like, in 5 years, you guys need to be excited. Figure it out. Because you're going to have your ups and downs. It's not going to be smooth, but you got to fucking work for it. And that's the whole thing with like marriage and job. It's like, yeah, it struggles. You got to constantly work. You want to be excited? What makes you excited? Why are you here right now? Why was this your goal? If this is your goal now, 5 years from now, it needs to be your evolved goal. And hopefully it's theirs, the employer, significant other, whatever it might be. But fitness wise, you were saying like 20 years from now, like, 20 pounds lighter, like you're not going to be a personal trainer necessarily, but it's like, all right, you hit your 20 pound goal of losing weight. 5 years from now, are you still working out? Are you still excited about this? Is this still a passion?
Sure.
Is this still taking up your effort every day? Because that's how you meet those goals. What do you want to say?
I think just from what you're talking about and like thinking about what it is to be married and to reach that goal, and just being married for as long as it's been, is the one thing like we're going to be doing in a couple of days is we're flying out to San Francisco, me and the fam, and we're going to drive down the coast, PCH, and spend the week just going on an adventure and just taking in everything. And I think it's kind of how I look at it is with Teresa and myself, is it's an adventure. It's a fun adventure. It's got its rocky times, but it's like we live to do things, to travel, and to create memories for Molly and to enjoy life. I think it's a big thing. Do we get in ruts? Of course. But it's good to break that up by having something to look forward to do that kind of travel, and to break that monotony up. And yeah, you can go on dates and you can do certain things there, but it's really, I think I'm going to admit that, Teresa set this whole thing up. I just texted her now and thanked her for it, because I really haven't done it yet, because I kind of take that for granted. And that's something that I just realized as we're talking about it, and
thank you for sharing that. By the way.
Yeah, no problem. And it's like what we're going to do. And I've been kind of stressed about it for the last week and a half, because there's just so much to do to get to that point. I had to go to Pittsburgh. I just got home from there today, and I got to work up until the time we got to fly out, and there's just a lot to do. And you work the Wednesday nights into your schedule though, right? Yeah. So
thank you for doing that too.
That means we're not going to see Sean for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll be gone for 2 weeks
remotely,
if I can. Maybe I'll do it from like a beach as the sun's setting over. And
all right,
yeah, I can do it. If you
don't be.
I'll have a BS.
Don't
with the
be
sunset.
A dick. All right, we're not going to see on a video feed, but you can comment all you want. Jesus.
But it's
life's
like
working out for you. Good for you. Blah blah blah.
But even the way we brought our child Molly into our lives
Yeah.
is we went to China and spent 2 weeks there.
All in.
Another adventure, another a way of just strengthening our relationship. I think that's where I look at it as a marriage as an adventure, and you make of it what you put into it, and if you want to sit in the couch every night and watch TV, that's your bag, then do it. But I think you go out there and you challenge yourself as individually and as a couple. And I think that's what's made us stronger, because we can look back and say we did the best we could with what we had. And we have an opportunity to have jobs where we could financially be able to make these opportunities. And so, but that's just kind of
it's a relationship that like you want to put the sweat equity into, because Steve's talked about it when he was in his previous career. And I've seen it in my career as well. You have those salespeople, it seems like it happens most often with, where they jump ship to another company like every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And so they're not, so when you look at someone's resume and for the last 10 years, they've had a sales position with 5 or 6 different companies, you don't look at that resume and go, oh, here's someone who's going to be with us long term.
Like you were saying about your leadership roles, which is crazy.
Yeah, like they're constantly jumping ship because someone's making them a better offer, or they think grass is greener over there, and like they're giving up what they have now. And when you get something that is worth having and worth keeping, you're willing to put the sweat equity into keeping that. And I think sometimes with relationships, with careers, in our culture today, it's become too disposable. Like they just, you know what? I hit a rough patch, done with it. This relationship, we had a big fight. I'm not going to deal with that person anymore. I'm just
it's so different.
Like I don't sit there and be like, you know what? I had a bad day at work today. It's the only bad day I've had. I'm going to look for another job.
Yeah. Oh shit. It happens a lot more.
Now, if it is a repeated thing over and over, then you have to realize, okay, this isn't a one-time thing. This is a pattern. I need to do something to change this. In a marriage, it shouldn't be that disposable.
Yeah.
Like if you realize that there is a problem that is repeatedly happening, you need to figure out how to fix the problem, because it is much easier and cheaper to fix that problem than to just ditch it and go on to the next thing.
Tim Dodge says, yep, exactly right, Nate. Anything worth doing is worth every ounce of you to do it well.
Yeah. Same thing with job. There are some people that.
Are you doing closing remarks? I was about to.
Oh.
You want to save some of that?
I was just talking.
And here we are just talking.
Isn't that what we do here?
Sean, you want to do closing remarks? Or you got to take a piss. I mean, whatever you want to do, man.
It's like, I gotta do it.
Yeah, I had a piss for like 2 hours. I was holding it because I'm a professional here. All right. All right. Nate, you want to do yours and then Sean?
I can. No. So when you first brought up the topic, you met your goal. So what? So, and I think it depends greatly on what the goal is, whether it's being in a relationship, getting married, getting a job, business, hitting a certain number. I think it varies depending on what topic you're talking about. But it's important to at least set those goals and be very specific, have a time frame for those goals. When you do achieve them, I think it's great to celebrate.
Poor Tony.
It's great to celebrate the goals. And I think on some of those instances, it's okay to take a step back a little bit and relax and not necessarily stress yourself out too much, and just enjoy it. If you landed a new job, great. Enjoy the job. Enjoy doing the work. If you had a business goal, hit a certain amount of sales or a certain dollar amount, whatever it is, pull off a smoking tent event, whatever it is, like, take the time to appreciate the victory. Take the time to actually recognize the work that's gone into it, both for you, the other person, the other party. It's okay to, enjoy the win, and then get into, okay, now what? We had a podcast about that.
We did.
Long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole idea of now what? When it's a relationship, that's not something that should be thought of like a disposable camera. That is something that's worth fighting for. It's worth keeping. So, with a job, when you get that job, like, stay at it, keep going, do your job. Just because things don't necessarily work out the best right off the bat, or you have a bad day here and there, that doesn't mean it's a bad job. That doesn't mean you need to necessarily look for something else. If it's not fulfilling what you need, if you're constantly having bad days, if I look at it, I've never really been one of those people that goes, oh, darn, it's Monday, yay, it's Friday. I've never been that type of person.
Working for the weekends.
Yes. If I find myself, but if I find myself in a situation where the job makes me regret Mondays and look forward to Fridays and look forward to the weekend, then I'm in the wrong job. I need to do something that is fulfilling to me. But I don't necessarily just look at it as the next stepping stone.
Got it. Go ahead, Sean. No, I'll round it out.
Okay. I'll try to say everything and not interrupt you on your closing remarks.
Typically happens. I'm prepared for it.
As soon as you're done, I'm muting your mic.
All right. And I'll just give it to you.
I do love that we have some YouTube listeners out there. So, Robert, I think it is. Thank you very much. And whoever else is listening on the YouTube, nice. Thank you.
I love this topic. It kind of like makes me think a lot now to think about over.
You literally texted your wife.
Yeah. And thanked her. And yeah, thank you, Steve. I got to give you a little props for that one.
Every once in a while.
Yep. I think that, like, for our trip, we're looking.
Mute his mic. That was it. That was
done.
Best thing he's gonna say.
So, just
ahead,
real quick about this trip. 2 years ago, we were ready to do this.
Yeah.
And COVID hit, and California shut down, and we thank God we got the trip insurance and we got our money back. So this is 2 years in the making for doing this trip. So we've waited long and hard for a very long time for this to happen. And it's finally happening. And we finally reached the goal. And I think the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is that we get to do this and we create memories and give, Molly an opportunity to be able to just be a part of this. And then it's the whole, now when you get home is, the weather's going to be warmer. There's going to be more things to do.
Yeah.
There's going to be, the pool's going to be open before you know it. We're going to be able to sit on our patios and
we're going to have some cookouts. We're going to walk the dogs together.
Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be the start of so many good things. And I just think that, over the years of having a lot of goals that I set and then done the now what, some have failed miserably. But I think the biggest thing is if you set a goal, you don't reach it, don't stop, keep going. There's no reason that you should just give up all hope. It's easy to do that, and that's the easy way out. But you take what you learn from those goals that you didn't reach to make other goals down the road that you can reach and learn from those, and it can strengthen you. I think that's just part of life, whether it's in a relationship or a job or whatever. With the weight loss thing for me is I got to that point. It was never for the right reasons. And now I'm looking at it as I want to work out and eat better to feel better. And if I lose weight in the process, then that's great. But that's all it's going to be. It's not going to be about hitting a certain goal. Because it's just, I'd like to see myself lose some weight, but I'm not going to bust my ass and to the point of like making myself miserable for it. So,
right.
The goal in that sense is more of a self-acceptance, self-appreciation.
Yeah.
There's balance there too.
Yeah. And I think once you do hit a goal, appreciate it, be humble. But always I think another thing too is as you're reaching that goal or whatever it is, have another goal ready to go right when you get done with that one, learn from that goal and go to another one. Just keep trying to move because it's always going to keep you moving forward, or always something you can work forward to and always have those strides and those goals to reach. But also I think a big thing is being humble about it, being very appreciative for what you've had, what you learned from along the way of that journey. So that's what I got.
Yeah, you won't know what your goals are after you meet your goal until you do it.
Yeah.
And if you stay hungry and you stay at that effort level, I want to thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton. I'll put them up on the screen here, and then I'll say mine. I'm down to it's late. I realize that hopefully people are listening after the fact, but Tinder Box at Easton, Altadis USA, and Cigar Company, and also patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. And also if you want to do a one-time donation or you want to do buy a bottle as Venmo at Bourbon and BS, you guys are amazing. And then also buyjack.com/bourbon and BS for all the shirts that, like Nate's wearing the red one. I'm wearing the when the world hands you some BS, light it up. We got several colors of the podcast shirt. The Kelly Green's still available if you want to buy a shirt for $30 and $10 goes towards St. Baldrick's Foundation. Topic. Put it on the screen. You met your goal, so what? I think if you reach for those goals with that mentality in mind, that when someone asks you that question, you met your goals, so what? We've talked about a lot tonight. I do love when Ann chimed in about that 5-year thing. That is something that is a constant progression. And when she made the comment is like, like if you meet that goal, it could change. 100% that can change because we're all growing. But if I ask you that question, is again, I'm summarizing here, is that if you meet your goal, if you get that job, if you hit that event, you to your point, Nate, is that you did that. You don't have to go back to planning right away for the next one, but there has to be that reflection period of when you hit that goal. One, was it worth it? Whatever you sacrificed to get that goal met. Did you lose more than you gained just to hit that goal? If you did, it might be a bad goal. If you can learn from that and meet the next goal and constantly grow from that, then hopefully you can find that balance of meeting goals and also finding that everyday happiness. That's my biggest thing about this topic as we evolved from this and the conversation went from that is simply that it's constant effort, whether it be that reflection stage, whether it be enjoying that and celebrating it, or it may be also that hitting that goal may not have been worth it. Sometimes that's the case. Sean, I know you personally, that there are people out there that they got the job, they are killing themselves, and they're meeting goals day in, day out, and they're making money or they're making their employer happy, but the other side of their life is sacrificed because of that. You got to find the balance. You can do both. We all have to remember that you can do both. You don't have to be I'm not saying there's nothing negative about it, but the antiquated situation where I'm going to sacrifice my life and my happiness for everyone around me. Because you doing that may get you to that point, what Nate was talking about, when you had this whale of a client or person and you get this life that you think you want. And when that variable leaves, what do you have? You might be back to ground zero or further, like negative. So that's the whole thing about all this, is that when I ask you met your goal, so what? Congratulations, that positive thing that you were talking about, Sean, same thing, like positive affirmation, like absolutely, like, well, you hit it. Let's circle back. And I know Sean hates that, but it's like, but you have to circle back. How did I hit that goal? What did I do to land this contract, land this person in my life, get this important aspect of my life? And how do I keep that feeling going? That's the whole point of this, is that it's not over when it's over. You have another fight. You have another day. You have all these things that you really need to keep working against the struggle, whatever it might be. And when you have that success, build it and keep enjoying it. If you don't have that everyday effort, which we all have our off days, I'm not saying you have to do it every day, because it's not realistic. You need to hopefully build yourself up to a point that you can have that setback, that you can take a step back, you can have your off days, whatever it might be, but you can actually get to that point that you can continue to be positive about what you're doing with your life. When you wake up, whatever you're doing, the job, the person you're with, whatever it might be, you have to enjoy it. As soon as you turn into the grind after success, it's not fun. You will reflect in that in your effort. You can't have that chip on your shoulder all the time. You need to be able to ride the wave of success of that goal. And it will not be continuous. You're going to have your next setback. But if you have that mentality, it's like, we can do this. I'm of the opinion that you will enjoy that success, because you have that mentality of riding the wave. And if you crash, there's another wave coming. And with that, I'll say happy Whiskey Wednesday, guys. Episode 213. Everyone out there, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. We got a special guest next week, Scott Neff.
Mm-hmm.
Wrote a book.
And who is Scott?
Scott, so he's the owner of a pub that we know, Fido, and he wrote a book. We'll probably be reading some of that. I'm actually a chapter of the book.
Really?
He wants me to do the audio. We're figuring things out, but it'll be a good podcast, and I'm happy to have him in the garage next week. But it'll be a fun podcast next week. And guys, thank you very much, and I hope you guys are enjoying the spring weather wherever you're at. And we'll see you next week.
Cheers.